Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen, and thank you for joining me for another journey into the world of shinobi. Before we begin, I want to give a huge thank you to everyone who listens, supports the channel, and enjoys these stories. Today's story is the final part of Naruto, Rinnegan Chronicles. In this story, during his training with Jiraiya, when Naruto Uzumaki struggles to perform properly the Summoning Jutsu, instead of begging for power, he demands that the nine-tailed fox inside him pay rent for living in his body, in the form of chakra. Kurama reluctantly complies, flooding Naruto with an overwhelming surge of power. But something unexpected happens. The massive clash between Naruto's chakra, the nine-tails energy, and the strain of the summoning technique triggers a mysterious reaction deep within his body. In that moment, Naruto awakens a power thought to belong only to legends. The Rinnegan. This is a fan-made story inspired by the world of Naruto. All characters and the original universe belong to their respective creators. This narration is created for entertainment purposes as part of a transformative storytelling experience. The story itself was written by Redrover 117, and full credit goes to the original author. If you would like to read the original version, the link to the story is included in the video description below. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Chapter 29. Be All My Sins Remembered Part 2. Fire Country. Konoha, Hokage Tower Debris Field. This isn't going to be easy, Naruto thought as he focused his gaze on the Uchiha mass murderer. A moment later, Yugito dropped down beside him. A moment later, Naruto? You're back? Was I too late? No, you're just in time, Naruto replied. I probably shouldn't bring this up, but now that I've mastered Senjutsu, I'm able to sense chakra signatures. Has Hokage-sensei gone somewhere? Neither Yugito nor Tayuya replied to that. Okay, Naruto said finally and clenched his fists in anger. His eyes were different. The pupil were a horizontal slits while the Rinnegan circle patterns overlapped it. The outermost circle at the edge of his eyes was red while the innermost circle was yellow and the rest was the standard gray. His Rinnegan looks different from before. I still have more than enough chakra to face Naruto-kun, but I won't have enough left over if reinforcements arrive. Kisame has clearly been defeated, so my only choice is to lure him away, Itachi thought before he turned quickly. He's getting away, Yugito exclaimed as the Uchiha jumped over the barrier towards the eastern gate. I'm going after him, you stay and help Tayuya. He won't get away, Naruto told her and turned quickly. Alright, but take Katsuyu with you. She'll allow you to stay in contact with us, Yugito told him and handed him the small summoned slug. Thanks, Naruto nodded before taking off after Itachi. This should be far enough away for us to do battle without response teams arriving too soon, Itachi thought as he stopped in a clearing in the forest west of the village. Rasengan. Naruto dropped down from above and Itachi narrowly evaded the jutsu as it struck the spot he was standing on just a moment ago. Didn't our confrontation in Wind Country teach you anything? You cannot expect to defeat me with such direct attacks, Itachi commented as Naruto stood up straight and turned towards him slowly. I can be any number from 1 to 1000. Who needs to be indirect? Naruto asked with a grin. What happened to your Rinnegan, Naruto-kun? It seems different from before, Itachi asked intrigued. It's a secret, Naruto mocked and jumped high above the trees. What is he? Oh dear, Itachi thought and dived into the ground. Doden. Mogaragakure no Jutsu, he whispered as he disappeared into the ground. Shinra Tensai. The landscape was blown away by the massive blast of gravity Naruto released. Boulders, trees and the very earth itself were hurled through the crumbling forest as the wave of destruction washed over it until all that was left was a huge crater over 10 miles wide and 40 foot deep. Naruto landed in the center of this, his coat flapping in the wind as the dust cleared revealing the smooth surface he had created. Impressive Naruto-kun, Itachi commented as he climbed out of the ground. But undeniably reckless. Throwing that much chakra into a gravity jutsu must have exhausted your ability manipulation to gravity. It will take several minutes for you to gain control over it again and that leaves you vulnerable. You sure know a lot about the Rinnegan, don't you? Naruto questioned. I once fought Leader Sama when I first joined Akatsuki. He won without a doubt and I was clearly outmatched. However, I was able to learn several of his weaknesses, Itachi replied simply. Well, come on then, Naruto challenged and gestured for him to attack. My regular genjutsu aren't working on him anymore and I don't wish to use the Mangekyo Sharingan unless I have to. I must keep to my normal jutsu for now, Itachi thought and quickly formed several hand seals. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. He exhaled a large fireball at the young sage in front of him. Naruto saw it coming and quickly slammed his hand down on the ground. Doden. Doryuheki no Jutsu. The earth in front of him rose up to create a barrier between him and the oncoming attack. It struck the wall a moment later, dissipating as Itachi narrowed his eyes at the lack of damage. His elemental ninjutsu is extensive, Itachi quickly analyzed. Even without his gravity jutsu, he is still able to use elements outside of his natural affinity. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, 2 clones popped into existence beside Naruto. I'll end it with this. He held out his hand towards the clones and they immediately started channeling chakra. What is he doing? What are these chakra levels? Itachi thought as his Sharingan spun at the sight of the jutsu that was forming. The number of wind blades in that jutsu. Is this how he defeated Orochimaru? Suddenly a bell-like screech reached his ears as he saw the chakra ball that formed in Naruto's hand suddenly sprout 4 large wind blades, making it resemble a large chakra shuriken. What a frightening sound. Futon. Rasen Shuriken. Naruto exclaimed as he twisted his body and threw the jutsu like he would a regular shuriken. He threw it? How can he hurl such high-density chakra like that? Itachi thought in alarm and moved to the side to evade the jutsu. His eyes widened as just when the jutsu was alongside him it suddenly expanded. Engulfing his right arm in a ball of wind, it expanded. Itachi gave out a grunt of pain as he pulled himself free of the small hurricane and rolled across the smoother ground. The ball exploded behind him with a resounding boom before the entire crater went silent once again. Itachi quickly checked his right arm. It wasn't there anymore. That last jutsu completely ripped it apart and reduced it to atoms. Damn, I missed, Naruto said with a small grin. He was panting slightly but was otherwise pleased with the fact that he was able to destroy Uchiha Itachi's right arm. The clones beside him immediately started channeling chakra into his hand again. You can't win Itachi. His strength. He is forcing me into a corner, Itachi realized as he heard the bell-like screech of the very dangerous jutsu that was thrown at him a moment ago. I mustn't allow him to catch me with that jutsu again. Futon. Rasen Shuriken. Naruto cried out as he hurled the chakra shuriken at him once again. I have no choice. Itachi closed his eyes for a moment and then snapped them open again to reveal his Mangekyo Sharingan. Amaterasu, he whispered, and black flames erupted from his eyes. The black flames hit the chakra shuriken in the blink of an eye, pun intended, and caused it to expand prematurely before exploding a moment later. Naruto was panting hard now and his eyes had returned to their natural shape and color. Even in Sage mode, I can only do 2 Rasen Shuriken each. I only have 4 left, Naruto thought as he tried to catch his breath. It would appear that your jutsu has worn off, Itachi commented upon seeing his opponent's muscles suddenly look like they were about to give out. Naruto didn't respond, instead forming a hand seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A single clone popped into existence beside him and he handed the large scroll on his back to it. There was no reason to say the command as the clone already knew what to do and quickly unraveled the scroll as Itachi watched on curiously. I won't let you pull off any of your jutsu, Itachi said as he rushed forward with his hand suddenly encased in lightning chakra. Let's see you try and stop me, Naruto shouted back as he too shot forward with a spinning ball of chakra in his hand. Rasengan. Chidori. The two clashed in the center and the 2 jutsus exploded a moment later, sending dust and mud into the air. Naruto and Itachi flew back in opposite directions with Naruto rolling across the ground to a stop and Itachi slamming through a tree. Itachi. Were you always this strong? The young sage asked in thought as he shakily stood once again. Itachi stood also seemingly unharmed. He doesn't even look winded even though I sliced his arm clean off. I do not need my arms to fight you, Naruto-kun. I only need my eyes, Itachi stated clearly. Gyaku Kachiyose no Jutsu. The clone that Naruto made earlier exclaimed as he slammed his hand down on the unraveled scroll. The kanji on it lit up and another clone appeared in a poof of smoke. The 2 dispelled a moment later and the real Naruto felt the influx of sage chakra he had become used to enter his system. His eyes shifted from blue to red and yellow with horizontal slitted pupils as he settled his gaze on the Uchiha's feet so as not to get caught in his genjutsu. "Come here," Naruto shouted as he shot forward at speeds that should be impossible for humans. "Kawazu Kumite," he called out as he threw a punch at the Uchiha's head. Itachi's Sharingan followed him as he approached and the Uchiha quickly evaded the punch. Just then, however, Itachi was blown back through a tree as he felt as if his cheek had been hit by Senju Tsunade herself. What was that? That wasn't Kyuubi's chakra and it wasn't gravity manipulation. If I can't predict it, then I need to keep my distance, Itachi realized as he quickly recovered. Suddenly Naruto appeared above him in an instant with a massive spinning fireball in his right hand. "What?" "Kaden. Dai Resenden," Naruto called out as the spinning fireball shot out towards the ground where Itachi stood. Amaterasu, black flames struck the large fireball, causing it to detonate prematurely and release a massive blast of heat and fire in all directions. Once the flames died down, Itachi had part of his cloak singed but no serious harm besides his arm. "This is getting dangerous." "Kaden. Dai Resenden," the young sage exclaimed again and sent another spinning fireball at the Uchiha. Itachi could feel his eyes were bleeding heavily now and forced himself to evade the attack as Naruto's eyes returned to their regular form and color, signifying his sage mode had depleted again. By now both were panting hard, Naruto more so after throwing 5S rank jutsu at his opponent one after the other in quick succession. "His strength has exceeded my expectations. I cannot allow him to recharge his jutsu again," Itachi thought, and his Mangekyo Sharingan spun quickly. Naruto was unfortunate enough to be caught in his eyes as he cast his most powerful genjutsu, Tsukuyomi. The world around them changed to a mix of darkness and crimson light. "What do you mean Naruto is fighting Itachi alone?" Shikamaru asked as the group helped injured shinobi and civilians in the damaged streets. "He's asked that no one interfere," Katsuyu spoke up. "He's so full of himself. This is Uchiha Itachi we're talking about. The man who wiped out an entire ninja clan in one night and just killed the Godem Hokage. We had to go after him," Kiba snarled out. "No," Shikaku spoke up, surprising the teens and adults around him. "If he's mastered senjutsu, then he's in a class of his own now. The best we can do in this situation is to stay out of his way and don't be a drag on him." "You can't be serious," Kiba grunted in disbelief and slight disgust. A wave of bloodlust washed over them, causing them all to shiver and snap their eye towards the eastern horizon where a column of crimson light was expanding up from the tree line. "That's..." Shikaku trailed off as the others quickly caught on also. "He's using Kyuubi's chakra? Is that safe?" Inoichi asked the others. "Not when allies are around, no, but for him to use it now means he's been backed into a corner," Yugito replied with clenched fists. "Itachi used Tsukuyomi on Naruto and it must have done something to Naruto's control. I am uncertain of what is happening exactly," Katsuyu reported. "Wait," Yugito said as she turned. "How many tails does he have?" She questioned the two Hyuga in the group. There are 6 tails," Hinata stuttered out as she watched with her Byakugan. 6, Yugito repeated with a start. "That wasn't supposed to happen," Itachi thought as he stared at the human-sized crimson chakra fox in front of him. It had 6 swishing tails behind it and was covered in some kind of skeleton-like bone structure. "So this is the power of the Kyuubi within you, Naruto-kun. And you constantly keep it suppressed on a daily basis? Even with the Rinnegan your control is astounding. You continue to amaze me even now, Naruto-kun." The crimson fox shot forward, blowing up dust as he moved and quickly appeared above Itachi. The Uchiha quickly reacted by jumping away as Naruto descended and brought his fist down on where Itachi once stood. The resulting shockwave leveled a good portion of the landscape as Itachi narrowly managed to get out of range. With one hand he can send out a shockwave that large. No wonder Madara considers him a threat. Between the Rinnegan and Kyuubi's power, Naruto-kun might very well end up killing him where the Shodai, Yondaime and I failed. "I do apologize, Naruto-kun, but I cannot die here," Itachi thought as he stared into the white eyes of the crimson chakra fox. "Amaterasu," he spoke as black flames struck Naruto in the side. Naruto howled in pain, but the flames didn't penetrate his chakra cloak. Kyuubi's chakra is too dense for even Amaterasu to penetrate. Suddenly blue and red orbs seemed to appear out of the air and gather at Naruto's open mouth as he let out an earth-shattering screech. The balls compressed into a single sphere and Itachi's eyes widened as the ball shot towards him at startling speeds. Rokubiko Amari, Susanoo. The ball exploded and engulfed the world around them inside miniature sun. The blast finally dissipated after a few long seconds and both combatants could be seen standing in the new crater that was just created from the last attack. Itachi now stood in the center of a large spiritual aura in the form of a Yamabushi with a sword in one hand and a shield in the other. "You still continue to impress me, Naruto-kun," Itachi rasped out as he felt his jutsu started to eat away at his body and soul. "I doubt you are conscious at the moment, but please pay attention, for no one has ever seen this jutsu and lived to tell about it." In response, Naruto let out another earth-shattering screech which sent a large shockwave at the Uchiha. The Yamabushi raised his shield as the shockwave washed over him. It held and Itachi batted the shockwave to the side as he swung the sword at his target. "Fuin!" Itachi exclaimed as the sword struck through the fox's chest and out the other side. The bones dissolved away after a few long seconds as Itachi retracted the blade and watched as the chakra around Naruto started to slowly disperse. Once the Kyuubi's chakra had completely disappeared from his system, Naruto fell forward onto his knees and spewed blood onto the unforgiving ground. "Do you see the futility of fighting now? Surrender," Itachi spoke simply. "You really think that I'm just going to roll over and die? Just like that? Fuck no." Naruto shouted as he rose to his feet once again. Itachi's eyes widened at the glare Naruto sent at him. His eyes, the Uchiha thought. Naruto's eyes were different even from before. It looked like a mix of Sage Mode, the Rinnegan and the eyes of the Kyuubi at the same time. He's using his jutsu, the Rinnegan and Kyuubi's chakra together? Ludicrous. There's no way anyone could possibly have that level of control. Am I already in Sage Mode? Kyuubi's chakra must have dispelled my last Sage clone, Naruto deduced and glared at the Uchiha in front of him. "I'll never give up. I'll never surrender," the blonde shouted as he held up both hands in front of him. "I only have one shot at this. Come on." Naruto gathered all the chakra he could from the Kyuubi's seal without re-entering his fox mode and threw out his jutsu. "Shinra Tensai," he called out as the massive gravity blast washed over the landscape. "No." Itachi's eyes widened as the Yamabushi instantly shattered under the strain of the last attack. He dropped to the ground and coughed blood into his only remaining hand. "I'm at my limit." Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Dozens of clones popped into existence beside Naruto and they charged forward immediately. "He's planning on overwhelming me with superior numbers," Itachi realized and took a deep breath. He exhaled a large fireball at the oncoming clones without hand seals. Kaden. Gukakyu no Jutsu. The clones were destroyed in matter of seconds, but the surprise came when a spinning chakra shuriken flew through the smoke. "What? Futon. Rasen shuriken," Naruto exclaimed from the clearing smoke. "Amaterasu." Itachi forced another blast of black flames at the chakra shuriken and destroyed it instantly as it approached. However, a second chakra shuriken appeared behind the first, making Itachi's eyes widen in surprise. He used Kage Shuriken no Jutsu. The second shuriken struck straight and true, tearing through Itachi's torso in one swift move, and it detonated a few feet behind him. Both halves of the Uchiha were sent flying and fell to the ground a few feet away. The upper body of Itachi coughed up a stream of blood and he forced himself to look up at the blonde for the last time. Thinking fast, he muttered one single word: Tsukuyomi. Chapter 30. Conspiracy. Anomaly. Tsukuyomi. Naruto suddenly found himself in some kind of house littered with ornaments and weapons. "Where am I?" he asked in thought as he slowly walked through the room. "We must act now. We cannot allow them to blatantly disrespect the Uchiha clan any longer." Naruto snapped his head in the direction of the voice and approached the window. Down in the street below was a man who looked like an older version of Itachi speaking to a crowd of people bearing the Uchiha family crest. "We must rise up and take the village our ancestor, Uchiha Madara, founded. The Hokage and the council believe we summoned the Kyuubi to attack Konoha and kill the Namikaze Minato. We cannot allow this to continue." "What is this?" Naruto asked in thought. "This is memory." Naruto turned swiftly and found a completely normal Itachi standing behind him. "I am dying." You won, but there are things that are still left unfinished. This is one of them, Itachi continued. What are you talking about? Naruto asked him. My father, Uchiha Fugaku, was rallying the entire Uchiha clan for a hostile takeover of Konoha. The entire clan was planning a coup d'état, Itachi explained, making Naruto take a step back in surprise. Why the hell should I believe that? That can't be true, Naruto said, shaking his head. But it is. What's more, I was playing a double agent inside the Uchiha clan for the Sandaime Hokage, Danzo and the elders. When negotiations with the clan broke down, they ordered me to destroy the clan, Itachi stated clearly as the scene around them changed. A second later, they were in one of the rooms at the base of the Hokage tower. A younger Itachi had his head bowed before Danzo and the elders of Konoha. Hirazen's negotiations have failed. A civil war is coming if we don't stop it now, Kaharu said simply. His belief that the Uchiha will actually listen is useless if a war starts here. We have to eliminate the problem at the source, Danzo stated clearly. If we wait, then it could be the start of the Fourth Great Shinobi War, he continued. What must be done? Itachi asked. The Uchiha must be neutralized before they plunge this entire continent into war, Danzo answered finally. Weasel. You're to make sure the peace in Konoha is maintained at any cost. The scene suddenly changed again, and a moment later Naruto found himself in a white room with Itachi standing a few feet away. As you can see, I was under orders to destroy the clan, Itachi stated clearly. Do you regret any of it? Naruto asked him. Do I regret killing my parents and the rest of the traitors in the clan? No, but I will always regret killing the innocent, the children and the babies. Sasuke was the only one I couldn't bring myself to kill, Itachi answered truthfully. Why are you showing me this? Naruto questioned. Because all I have left is the ideals of Leader Sama. He wants peace, and I believe you do too. You need this information if you are to bring peace, Itachi replied. You mean pain? Naruto asked with anger lingering in his words. Yes, though he is not the true leader of Akatsuki, Itachi replied. True leader? Naruto questioned. The benefactor of Akatsuki, the man who helped me destroy the Uchiha clan, and the man who summoned Kyuubi no Yoko to attack Konoha 16 years ago. Uchiha Madara, Itachi answered. Your chakra is vile and reminds me of Uchiha Madara. Naruto's eyes widened at the name. Who the hell is Madara? You heard my father talking about him earlier. He was the founder of the Uchiha clan in Konoha. He could control the Kyuubi like a pet and used it to attack Konoha 16 years ago. In a way, Konoha was right and the Uchiha were responsible for the attack. I am unsure what his plan is, but I will tell you this. He is weakened at the moment compared to what he once was. He suffered considerable injuries at the hands of the Shodai Hokage, but even still he is an extremely dangerous shinobi. Sooner or later you will have to face him. I pray that you are ready when you do, Itachi said calmly as crows swarmed around the pair. A crow dove and entered Naruto's mouth, forcing its way down his neck. Once it disappeared, Naruto collapsed to the floor, coughing but otherwise fine. He glared at the Uchiha mass murderer in front of him as he tried to steady his breathing. What did you do to me? Naruto demanded. I gave you some of my power. Though I pray that you are never forced to use it, Itachi stated and turned away. My time is up. You know Sasuke will be coming after you now, don't you? His revenge demands it. Naruto remained silent as he continued. I've done all that I can. The rest is up to you. With that, the world was consumed in light. Fire Country. Battlefield. Near Konoha. Naruto stared down at the unmoving form of Itachi's upper body, the lower half motionless a few feet to his left. Suddenly a bright light exploded from the body and shot into Naruto's hands. A moment later the light died down to reveal another chakra crystal, this one crimson with the feeling of incredible heat. I will give you resurrection. 4 of 6. Shiki Fujin. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked but received no answer. Naruto clenched his fists as he stood over the body of his defeated opponent before he let out a sigh. He crouched down and pulled a small scroll out of his cloak. He quickly sealed the body in the scroll before he rose to his feet again and turned to leave. He cast one look back at where Itachi once lay before continuing onwards to Konoha. He staggered as he walked but otherwise kept moving. Itachi. All you wanted to do was stop a war from breaking out. You didn't deserve this. Naruto thought as he kept sluggishly walked through the trees. He tripped, losing his balance in the process and fell forward. Crap. The next thing he knew his right arm was slung over someone's shoulder. Tayuya? The red-headed Uzumaki snorted in amusement. What are you doing here? We got word from Katsuyu that you won, so I came out to get you. Since knowing you, you probably went overboard again. Oh, and before I forget, you weigh a ton. Maybe you should try dieting, the redhead said, grinning. Smartass, Naruto snorted in response as she helped him walk in a straight line. What about the others? He asked her. Arrow Hokage and the Green Wonder were killed. Everyone else is being tended to by the old slug and Yugito. It could have been a lot worse. Tayuya muttered the last part and Naruto couldn't help but bitterly agree. And you? He asked her. The redhead just grinned. I've had better days. Haven't we all? The young sage asked with a small laugh. Try to stay conscious, Whiskers, Tayuya said with a smirk. Whiskers? I thought it was Shit Stain? The blonde asked with a weak grin. You've been promoted to Whiskers, so deal with it, the redhead replied. I think you've been spending too much time around Anko, Naruto commented as the two approached the eastern gates of Konoha. What's that? He asked when he caught sight of the crowd standing at the gates. Hey, there they are, one of the villagers called. Naruto, great job, another village shouted as others shouted out the gratitude also. Yeah, you did great, one of the shinobi in the crowd cheered. What is this? Naruto said in surprise as the several of the villagers ran towards him. Didn't I say Katsuyu told us everything? Everyone knows you beat Itachi when even Arrow Hokage failed, Tayuya explained as Naruto suddenly found himself surrounded by villagers and ninja alike. Naruto. The young sage turned and saw Yugito step in front of him. Hey Yugito. I'm back, Naruto said with a small smile. You reckless idiot, she smacked his head, forcing him to recoil slightly. The next thing he knew, her lips were crushed against his in a kiss which sent the crowd into another wave of cheers. Yugito pulled away after a few seconds and said, Don't ever make me worry like that again. Sorry I worried you, Yugito, Naruto said softly and smiled. Thanks for caring. He pulled her into another kiss and the crowd cheered. Today was the day that marked the reign of the Rokudame Hokage. Fire Country. Daimyo's Palace, Council Chamber. We plan to continuing working with other countries against the threat posed by Akatsuki, Homura stated clearly to the council. If Fire and the Fire Daimyo. After what has happened to Konoha, Fire Country will put every effort into helping rebuild from this latest attack. We'll first have to come up with a budget, and considering the strain on the other countries, I suppose we should be thankful that the village is still standing from this incident, one of the councillors said with a nod. There is something else we should consider first. Who will be the next Hokage? Danzo asked the question. I was thinking Tsunade would be a fine choice, the Fire Daimyo mused. She is the granddaughter of the Shodai Hokage and is a student of the Sandaime Hokage. She is also a drunk and a gambler. If she were made Hokage, then Konoha might struggle with her authority, Koharu spoke up. So who shall it be? Asked the daimyo. Well, Danzo began but was cut off when the main doors flew open. I apologize for intruding, Daimyo-sama, but I am here on a matter of grave importance. Naruto's voice echoed through the chamber as he entered with Tayuya, Sai and a squad of Anbu and Jonin at his side. Uzumaki, Naruto, what is the meaning of this? Koharu demanded as she and the rest of the room's occupants rose from their seats. You are under arrest, Naruto replied simply and pointed towards her and her companions. Anbu, take the elders into custody, he ordered, and the Anbu complied without delay. On what charge? Homura demanded. Attempted genocide of a Konoha clan. Naruto's reply stopped everyone in the room cold. Danzo's visible eye narrowed further at his words. He knows about the Uchiha clan. I can't let him live with that knowledge. He took a step back as two figures appeared in front of him. Fu, Torun. Cover me. I'm going to release the seal on my arm. He slipped of his bandages to reveal a cast of some kind on his arm. It's a good thing I recalled these two when Itachi attacked. But I never expected Sai to betray me. That Kyuubi Jinchuriki must have removed the seal on his tongue, or he wouldn't dare oppose me like this. Shinra Tensai, Tayuya whispered, and both root agents were slammed through the wall as Sai and the Anbu grabbed the two village elders. You can't do this, Koharu shouted in outrage. I apologize for the disturbance, Daimyo-sama, but I must make sure the peace in Konoha is maintained at any cost, Naruto said as he smiled at the now stiff elders and Danzo. All three were surprised at the words he had used. Words that they remembered from the night they ordered the Uchiha clan be destroyed. Danzo threw down the metal cast and revealed his right arm, covered in numerous Sharingan. Where did you get those Sharingan? Naruto asked him. Here and there. It's a long story, Danzo replied cryptically. So you and the elders really did order Itachi to exterminate the Uchiha? Naruto declared to the surprise of the room. If that is true, then when will you stop? Once everyone is one of your mindless drones? I can't allow you to continue with this pointless bloodshed. Pointless? What I have always done has been for the good of Konoha. It is the reason there has been no wars in so many years, Danzo shot back. You and the other elders were given the mantle by Shodai and Nidaime Hokages, so they entrusted the future of Konoha to you. Now it's time for you to step aside and put your faith in the youth of today, Naruto stated clearly, though he thought the last part sounded like something Lee would say. No, I am the only one who can ensure Konoha's continued survival, Danzo declared as he made several hand seals and shot forward at incredible speeds. Shinra Tensei, Naruto whispered, and Danzo was thrown back against the far wall with a thud and spray of blood. Your Rinnegan is impressive, Namikaze Naruto, Danzo said, suddenly appearing where he was originally standing completely unharmed to the surprise of everyone in the room. I thought he was a better man than that. That bastard. Self-sacrifice. That is what defines a shinobi. Scorning the sun, to work in the shadows. That has always been. That is a true shinobi. Many ninja have died like that. Itachi is not the only one. Niceties will not make the world go round. It is thanks to people like that that we have been able to maintain the peace. In telling his secret, Itachi betrayed Konoha. And now by challenging me you have too. Shunpo no Jutsu, Naruto appeared in front of him in a flash of yellow light. Kawazu Kumite. The punch slammed into Danzo's chest and he was hurled through the wall behind him. The two found themselves outside the tower of the palace and tumbling down in the trees below. They touched down on solid ground a few seconds later and narrowed their eyes at each other, in Danzo's case all of them. Now we must speak with our eyes, Namikaze Naruto, were Danzo's words. Chapter 31. Illusion and Reality. Fire Country. Forest, near Daimyo's palace. Now we must speak with our eyes, Namikaze Naruto, Danzo said clearly. You have impressive defensive capabilities. Good offense as well, judging by your last attack. I landed a direct hit on you. I should have broke your back with that jutsu, Naruto said, confused. Was it a genjutsu? No, my eyes would be able to tell if you tried to cast one on me, even if you used those Sharingan of yours. You should surrender, Namikaze Naruto, Danzo told him. Perhaps in response to his words, Naruto jumped at him with a large spinning chakra ball larger than his own body in his right hand, Cho Udama Rasengan. Danzo stood firm as the jutsu exploded directly on top of him, obliterating everything within range including him and leaving a large crater in its wake. Naruto stood in the center of this newly created crater as a yet again unharmed Danzo appeared from behind him. I know my jutsu hit him that time. How did he survive? Naruto asked in thought as he jumped to evade the volley of wind bullets sent at him. Futon. Shinkagyoku. Danzo explained as launched the spread of wind bullets at the blonde. Fujutsu Kyuin. Naruto whispered in midair and the wind bullets dissolved before they were able to touch him. He's not bad for an old man. Was old man Sandaime this strong too? His hands settled into a familiar seal as he touched back down on solid ground. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Two clones popped into existence beside him and started charging his next jutsu. Let's see how invincible you are, you old prune. That jutsu. The Yondaime Hokage's unfinished jutsu, Danzo said upon seeing it. For the record, it's not finished yet, I'm only at stage 5. I still have to reach stage 6, Naruto declared as a bell-like screech filled the air around them. Such an outrageous amount of concentrated chakra. A jutsu truly befitting the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Danzo mused as he watched on. Naruto spun quickly and hurled the jutsu at the elder, Futon Rasen Shuriken. He threw it. I have no choice but to use Izanagi again, Danzo thought as the chakra shuriken struck him dead center and sliced through him. It exploded a moment later in a large blast of wind and power, completely destroying his body. Danzo reappeared a few feet away from where he was a moment ago. It's no use, Kyuubi. Even with the Rinnegan you cannot hope to defeat me here. Surrender and I will not punish you. I can see it, Naruto spoke simply. What? His eyes are different. That's not the Rinnegan. Danzo's eye, widened slightly. I couldn't see if before but now I can. Those Sharingan in your arm close every time you survive my jutsu. Meaning I've killed you 3 times already and you still need to die 8 more times before you stay dead. I just had to outlast you. Naruto shouted as his eyes constantly shifted color. His eyes? Don't tell me he's channeling Kyuubi's chakra, Sage Mode and his Rinnegan at the same time? This is bad, he might actually be able to kill me, Danzo realized and started forming hand seals. Kuchiyose no Jutsu. Instantly a large taper appeared in a poof of smoke and started sucking in air from the area. What the hell is that? Naruto thought in alarm as he used his chakra to stick to the ground. Now he can't move and I can use the taper's suction to increase my power, Danzo thought as he appeared behind the blonde. He took a deep breath, exhaled a blast of wind, Futon, Shinku Renpa. Fujutsu Kyuin. Naruto turned quickly and tried to absorb the jutsu only for it to blow right through and strike his body directly. What? How did he? Naruto gasped as he was thrown back from the impact with an extensive number of cuts across his body. Futon. Shinku Taigoku. Danzo followed it up with compressed wind ball which slammed into Naruto and exploded in a blast of fire and wind. A moment later he checked the Sharingan on his arm. I still have 7 including Shisui's eye. Bansho Tenon. Danzo jumped aside just as a large slab of earth crashed down on where he was standing a moment ago. Naruto appeared behind the elder in a flash of yellow with a ball of spinning chakra in hand, Rasengan. Fukunaikiri. Danzo called out as he blew some wind chakra on a kunai and swung round to intercept his opponent. The two struck each other with their respective attacks and Danzo is blown back to the edge of the crater as Naruto pulled the wind-enhanced kunai out and threw it to the side. Danzo stood once more completely unharmed and checked his arm. That leaves 6. But I can't stop using Izanagi now. For an old man you're strong, Naruto commented as his wounds healed in a matter of seconds. And your ability to regenerate from just about any injury is tiring, Danzo stated. Benefits of Kyuubi and Sage Mode, the blonde shrugged with a grin. You are strong, Kyuubi. But you also follow Hiruzen's teachings, the fool, Danzo continued. Why do you believe that? Naruto asked him. Because a shinobi's duty is to ensure the peace of the land and operate in the shadows. You and Hiruzen are the same in believing peace is maintained with friendship, Danzo stated clearly. Ero Sennin believed that the day would come when people would truly understand each other, Naruto told him. And that is what makes you a fool. Just because people can't understand one another doesn't mean that they can come to an agreement. Peace can only be maintained by destroying your enemies and ruling supreme, Danzo proclaimed. And that is exactly what I plan to do. Unite this world and rule it as one nation. Do you really think the world can be saved so easily? Naruto shouted as 2 clones appeared at his side and started channeling chakra into his hand. I am the only one who can ensure peace for Konoha, Danzo declared. I'm not worried about my own life. This is for Konoha, for the entire ninja world. I can't die now, I'll do anything to survive. I am the only one who can change this world. You will be nothing more than another sacrifice. I won't allow it, Naruto shouted as the sound of hundreds of constant explosions rippled through the air. He brought up his jutsu and launched it at the elder, Kaden. Dairasendan. The jutsu exploded with such great force that the earth itself shook from the blast, leaving a crater similar in size to the first one right beside it. After the dust cleared, Danzo could be seen standing in the center of it, seemingly unfazed by this latest attack. 5 left including Shisui's. I must finish this soon, Danzo thought as he looked over the Sharingan on his arm. Damn it, my Sage Mode is depleted, I have to recharge, Naruto thought as he dropped the large scroll on his back and spread it out on the ground. He formed several hand seals and slammed his palm down on the kanji written on it, Gyaku Kuchiyose no Jutsu. A clone appeared in a poof of smoke, dispel quickly. A reverse summoning? Why would he? He must have depleted his Sage Mode, but why doesn't he just use the Toad Elders to gather the energy for him? Perhaps they can't. It must be the Kyuubi's doing, Danzo deduced as Naruto created 4 clones to aid him. Now what is he doing? The clones started channeling chakra Tobith off Naruto's hands. Don't tell me he can use 2 of them at the same time, he thought in alarm. Futon. Suin Rasen Shuriken, Naruto exclaimed as he threw the 2 chakra shurikens at the elder. Izanagi, Danzo thought as the 2 chakra shurikens engulfed him in a pair of large wind spheres. Damn it, 2 Rasen Shuriken or 2 Dai Resenden are my limit before Sage Mode is drained, Naruto thought with staggering breaths. Danzo suddenly appeared behind him in an instant. Damn it. Fuku Naikiri. Danzo called out as he struck the blade through Naruto's chest. Damn it, Naruto rasped out. You were too slow. I win, Danzo said simply. No. No you don't. Danzo jumped back in surprise as red chakra exploded from Naruto's body and encased him in a dense shroud of vile chakra. It took the shape of a fox with 6 tails and a skeleton lining it. So this is the power of the Kyuubi. Certainly a monstrous creature, Danzo thought upon seeing the chakra fox. This won't be easy, he realized as the fox sent out a terrifying shriek. The fox shot forward in an instant and struck down on Danzo's location. Thought fortunately for him he was able to dodge at the last second. Such outrageous strength, he thought when he saw the size of the shockwave that was released from the impact. The fox turned towards him and chakra started to condense into a ball at its mouth. That is not good. Rokubiko Ima. The fox began in a gritting voice. Futon. Shinku Taigoku. Danzo called as he sent a compressed wind ball at the fox. The wind ball slammed into the fox, causing it to lose concentration, making the chakra ball destabilize and explode in a dome of light which stretched for a good 2 miles. Thankfully they were a sufficient distance away from the daimyo's palace, so none of the others were in danger of being hit by their attacks and getting caught in the crossfire. That didn't mean they couldn't see it. He's too dangerous in this form, I have to suppress him now, Danzo thought as he checked his arm once again. Only 2 left. I have to make this count. Suddenly the fox's chakra started to bulge and 2 more tails grew on the shroud. At this rate he might fully transform. Danzo put his hands into a seal and cast off the bandages on his right arm. The fox roared as it exploded upwards and grew into a massive fox with high tails, no skin and no fur. It roared again as it swung its tails across the land and forced Danzo to jump away as the tails leveled the landscape and caused the very earth to shake. His strength has exceeded my expectations, Danzo realized and thought. I must do this now. He placed his right hand down on the and immediately several pillars of wood erupted from the ground around the fox. Hokage Shiki Jijun Jutsu, Kakuon Niden Suishu. He called out as the wood grabbed the fox's tails and held it down. Izanagi, he whispered as the chakra crystals around Naruto's neck inside the fox began to glow. So close, and yet too far. No, Danzo shouted as the fox roared and broke free from its restraints. The wood crumbled under the intense chakra that the creature exuded and it started forming another, much larger ball of condensed chakra at its mouth. I only have 1 Sharingan left. Shisui's, bastard. Hachibiko Amari, the fox roared as it unleashed the attack. A massive condensed beam of chakra which vaporized everything it touched, carving out a large valley from where Danzo stood to the base of the nearby mountain and actually engulfing the mountain in a wave of destruction. When the dust cleared, Danzo could be seen on 1 knee with clearly out of breath and the last of his Sharingan closed. I can't win, Danzo realized as he looked up at the monstrous demon fox. Its skin started to form along with its fur as the 9th tail started to form. No. And then suddenly, it stopped. Naruto's mindscape, Jinchuriki seal. Let go of me. No, I won't let you control me anymore. Naruto shouted. The red liquid around him bubbled and consumed him. Give your soul to me, boy, and I will destroy your enemies for you. Yes, you're doing fine. Kyuubi smirked sadistically as Naruto's eyes rolled back into his head and his jacket opened to reveal the seal. It distorted into a black spiral shape and the fox grinned. You're mine now, Naruto. Now come here and rip this seal off. Naruto approached the seal almost automatically and reached out to grab it. Until someone caught his hand. Naruto looked over at the one who caught it. Huh. I thought this might happen, said Namikaze Minato before he turned swiftly and pulled his son away from the Kyuubi's cage. You! The fox roared in anger upon seeing the Yondaime Hokage. Dad? Naruto asked hesitantly as Minato carried him further away from the seal. I worked it into the seal so that I would appear within your psyche when the seal unraveled to the point you unleashed 8 tails. Truth be told, I'd hoped you would never get that far, especially since I didn't ever want to see you again, Kyuubi, Minato explained as he set Naruto down on his feet. But then again, I was looking forward to meeting my son as a young man, so I guess you can call it even. Yondaime Hokage, come here. I'll rip you to shreds, Kyuubi snarled at him. Yeah. Telling me you're going to rip me to shreds isn't going to make me come any closer, Minato said to the fox over his shoulder. Right, Naruto? He asked his son. Dad, what the hell are you doing here? Naruto asked, unable to think of anything else. What does it look like? I'm saving you from the Kyuubi, Minato replied, gesturing towards the fox. Yondaime. Kyuubi snarled in anger. Damn, he sure is loud, isn't he? Let's go somewhere quieter. Minato clicked his fingers and the two appeared in what looked like a white void. Hiruzen-sama didn't tell you much of anything, did he? I know Jiraiya-sensei told you about me during your training, but I guess Hiruzen-sama wanted to suppress as much information about the fox as possible. If folks had found out you were my son before you were ready, then you would be in danger. I'm sorry. Dad, Naruto said with clenched fists. A second later he slugged his father in the stomach, causing him to wince. You complete moron. Ouch, Minato winced from the blow. And people say I pick up the recklessness from mom. Why would you even think about putting the Kyuubi inside your own son? How the hell could you put me through that? Naruto yelled in anger and frustration. I don't know if I'm happy or mad right now. Minato sighed as his son settled down. I see. How old are you, Naruto? Just turned 16 last October, Naruto answered as he wiped away the tears from his eyes. 16 already, huh? It must have been hard. Can you ever forgive me? Minato asked before he turned away. Though I suppose it's little consolation to you for me to put on a fatherly face and apologize after putting you through all that. No. I can deal. I still think you're a moron, but I can deal with that, Naruto said, shaking his head. Minato just smiled, just like your mother. His smile saddened. I miss her. She was always so full of energy. Though that might have just been from the ramen. I wish I could have met her, Naruto admitted. Don't take this the wrong way, but I hope you don't see either of us for a long time after this, Minato said with a smile. Live your life to the fullest and have no regrets. I will, Naruto nodded in understanding. Minato's expression suddenly turned serious. I sealed half of Kyuubi's chakra inside you because I trusted that you would master its power. Because you are my son. Dad. Wait. You knew I would have the Rinnegan, didn't you? Naruto asked him, catching on. You're an Uzumaki of the royal family of Whirlpool. Of course I knew you would have the Rinnegan, and even if you didn't, I knew you would find a way to master it eventually. There is, however, another reason I went through all of this trouble. It's based on something I learned 16 years ago when Kyuubi attacked Konoha, Minato responded. What exactly? Naruto asked, confused. There was a mastermind behind Kyuubi's attack, who manipulated him and made him assault Konoha. He was quite a formidable shinobi, someone you would need extraordinary strength to stand against and hope to defeat, Minato answered. The benefactor of Akatsuki, the man who helped me destroy the Uchiha clan. And the man who summoned Kyuubi no Yoko to attack Konoha 16 years ago. Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara, Naruto said clearly. Minato nodded at that. Yes, I believe so. I know Jiraiya-sensei had his suspicions, and my hypothesis was only confirmed when Itachi mentioned Madara's name during your fight with him. You were watching? Naruto asked, surprised. I saw from the seal, Minato nodded in confirmation. I know about Jiraiya-sensei too. And about Pain. I know you want revenge on him, but I ask that you don't let it cloud your judgment. I'll try, Naruto said with a sigh. Back before Kyuubi's attack, Madara saw through all of my moves. He's no ordinary shinobi. I don't know what he's planning, but it can't be good, Minato continued. Why? Why is Konoha always the one that's targeted? Naruto asked the question that had been plaguing him. So long as there exists a shinobi culture in this world, there may never be peace and order. Danzo talked about uniting nations and making Konoha rule the world. Perhaps he's right. War is born when one tries to save something precious. So long as love exists, hate does as well. That hatred uses shinobi thus. So long as we have shinobi culture, the monster known as hate will always give birth to new pains, Minato explained. Pain may have killed Jiraiya-sensei, but if you think about it deeper, you could say that it was the disorder in the shinobi world that created pain and that killed sensei. A battle against hatred, that's what shinobi are, and each and every one of us battles that hatred on a daily basis. Jiraiya-sensei entrusted you to find the answer to stopping this hatred. But I can't. Danzo killed the Uchiha clan and used Itachi to do it. Pain killed Ero Sennin and Itachi killed Hokage-sensei. I just can't, Naruto told him. I know, Minato nodded in understanding. Please tell me, what should I do? Naruto asked him. You have to find the answer yourself, for even I do not know it, Minato admitted. How the hell am I supposed to do that? Ero Sennin, and even you have no clue. How the hell am I supposed to do something like this? Naruto shouted in frustration. Minato's right hand found its way to his son's head, calming him down. You'll find the answer. I believe in you, isn't that enough? Why? Naruto asked him. Well, it is the duty of a parent to unconditionally believe in their children, Minato said with a smile as he let go of his son's hair. Now, it's time for me to go. My chakra is fading. He placed his hand on Naruto's seal and it returned to its normal state. I've repaired the seal, but this is a one-time thing. I can't do it again. It's fixed? Naruto asked in surprise as he looked at the seal. By now Minato was beginning to fade away. Konoha can be rebuilt as long as the will of fire still burns. Good luck, Naruto. I'm counting on you. He vanished completely a moment later. Thanks, Dad, Naruto said as the world around him shattered. Fire country. Battlefield. Near Daimyo's palace. What happened? Danzo asked in thought as saw the fox seem to shatter like glass before his eyes and fade away in nothingness. Did he find some way to suppress the Kyuubi on his own? No, that's impossible. He was obviously unconscious and yet he still suppressed the Kyuubi despite it nearing its complete form. Just what is he? Are you ready to finish this, Danzo? Naruto asked from the center of where the large fox once stood. My sage mode is recharged again. It looks like my last clone was dispelled again by Kyuubi's chakra. Suddenly trees started to sprout from Danzo's right arm and he yelled in pain. He grabbed a kunai and sliced his entire arm off as the arm expanded into a large tree. It looks like you're reaching your limit too. Shut up, boy, I'm not done yet, Danzo spat at him. I'm out of Sharingan, so I can't do Izanagi anymore, and with Shisui's eye now closed I can't even cast that genjutsu either. Naruto put his hands into a seal and blue chakra exploded from his body. Damn, this is going to hurt, but I don't have a choice. Exactly 100 shadow clones popped into existence around him. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. The clones shot forward a moment later. Damn it, with the Rinnegan active I just know I'm going to have a monster headache in the morning. Futon. Shinkua. Danzo called out as he exhaled a large blast of wind which wiped out the clones. Unfortunately for him it was just to buy some time. Chibaku Tensai. Naruto shouted as he threw up a small gravity ball into the sky above them. No! Danzo exclaimed in thought as he was pulled up onto the miniature moon along with the rest of the earth around him. I cannot die like this. More slabs of rock impacted the construct and a few struck down. It is down, right? On Danzo's location until he half buried beneath solid rock. I think you are right, Danzo. I think the only way to bring Konoha peace is to unite the world. But I can't accept your way of doing things. Naruto's voice was barely above a whisper, but Danzo heard it all the same. Do not waver, Danzo said as he accepted his fate. Shinra Tensai. The miniature moon exploded outwards and debris from it fell to the ground around Naruto. After a few minutes of silence for his fallen enemy, Naruto turned away only to turn back when a column of light shot out of the ground where Danzo lay. What? Another chakra crystal exploded from the ground and slammed into his open hands. Another one? 5 of 6. Gedo Mazo. Naruto just shook his head. I'll worry about this later. He turned away again and headed back in the direction of the daimyo's palace. Goodbye, Danzo. If he had stayed just a bit longer he would have noticed a plant-like figure appear from the ground. That was great, I haven't seen a fight like that in years, Black Zetsu commented. Madara-sama is not going to be happy about this, White Zetsu said clearly before they disappeared into the ground again. Fire country. Daimyo's palace, council chamber. You can't do this, Kaharu shouted indignantly as the Anbu held her back. What are they still doing here? Get those traitors out of my sight, Naruto ordered, and the Anbu took the two elders away, kicking and screaming all the way. I see the tales of your strength are true namikaze Naruto. The fire daimyo smiled with a hint of mischief. I had wanted Senju Tsunade to be the Rokudame Hokage, but she will be needed more at the hospital than on the battlefield. That leaves you, he continued. Me? Naruto asked as he turned towards the fire daimyo. He flapped his fan back together. It's decided then. Namikaze Naruto, you will be the Rokudame Hokage. Wait, what? Chapter 32. Dealing with consequences. Fire Country. Hokage Monument, Council Chamber. This is too much. Naruto yelled in frustration as he threw the piles of papers into the air. Hokage-sama, the paperwork needs to be done, Shizune said, clearly amused at the situation. Screw the paperwork, I have bigger problems at the moment. Naruto waved her comment away and shook his head. Knock knock. Come in. Naruto called, hopefully he wouldn't snap. The rest of the Konoha 10 entered with Yugito. Oh, it's you guys. Is that all you have to say? Kiba asked, sounding insulted. Yes, it is, dog breath. Naruto replied, not missing a beat. Before the Inuzuka could respond, he turned to Yugito. Please tell me this is a social call. Mostly, Yugito nodded with a smile. Shisho is handling more of the injuries, but everything is fine for the moment. That's good. I have Sai and Tayuya mopping up the last of Danzo's roots, so they won't be back until later. Hopefully Akatsuki won't try anything else for a while. Naruto sighed as he leaned back in his new chair. The new Hokage Tower will take at least a month to build, and that is if everyone pulls double shifts, Neji mused as he leaned against the far wall. Our flames of youth have not diminished, Lee proclaimed. Suddenly a messenger ran into the makeshift office, surprising everyone. Hokage-sama. What is it now? Naruto asked, clearly irritated. There are some Kumo nins here to see you and Yugito-sama, the messenger replied. Show them in, Naruto said immediately. The moment the three Kumo nins entered, Yugito recognized them. Samui, Karui and Omoi too. What's going on? Yugito asked them. 4 days ago Kumo was attacked by Akatsuki, Samui replied. What? Yugito asked in shock. The entire village has been wiped out. Raikage-sama is dead and Kurabi-sensei is missing. The council sent us here to get you. All of our ninja are being recalled, Samui explained. Grandfather is. And Kurabi-sensei too? How? Who did it? Yugito demanded. I do not know his name, but I do know one thing. He wielded the Rinnegan, Samui replied, and suddenly the temperature in the room dropped. Pain, Naruto growled out. Him, Yugito gritted out in anger as her fists tightened at her side. She turned to Naruto and said, I'm going home. Team Guy will escort you out of Fire Country. Naruto nodded in understanding and turned to the team in question, who nodded also. This can't go on any longer. Shikamaru, would you please send out a message to the 5 major nations? Inform them I'm calling for a 5-cage summit in Iron Country. Everyone was surprised at the order. What a drag. Yes, Hokage-sama, Shikamaru sighed and nodded. Tsunade Obakin will be in charge of the village while I'm at the summit, so please inform her. Also Team Kuranai. I want you 3 to locate Sai and Tayuya. Tell them they're being recalled. They nodded at the orders. Dismissed, he sighed as the Konoha nins left the room. Team Samui followed a moment later, but Naruto stopped Yugito from leaving also. Yugito. She turned back to him, please be safe. I will. Yugito nodded with a smile before she left, leaving Naruto alone in the room. If there was one thing Naruto realized in that moment, it was that time was quickly running out. For everyone. Sound Country. Auto, Alpha Base 02. Uchiha Sasuke sat in the main office of the complex as he read over the report in front of him with silent anger and hatred drifting off from him. Ever since Orochimaru was killed by Naruto, he had taken over as the Otokage, and with the intent of using the village's resources for his own ends. He did not, however, expect to see the report in front of him right now. Are you certain? His voice was a harsh whisper. A nervous Karen stood in front of him and nodded. Yes, Otokage-sama. Leave, Sasuke ordered, and Karen quickly exited the room. Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked worriedly. Itachi is dead. Naruto killed him. Naruto. He has taken away my revenge. Sasuke growled out as he stood up and threw the entire desk to the side. Sakura stood unmoving as he did so. Sasuke-kun, your eyes. What? He asked her sharply. Your eyes are different, Sakura told him. He looked in the mirror hanging from the wall on the left. My eyes. the Mangekyo Sharingan. His fists clenched at his side. Itachi was my only concern. The closest person to me. His death has triggered this. What do we do now, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked. I'm going to kill Naruto. For taking away my revenge, Sasuke declared as he turned to the pinkhead. Come, we are leaving. I must form a team for us to be successful, starting with Karen. Yes, Sasuke-kun. Sakura nodded but held a bit of jealousy in her tone over the other girl's name. Rain Country. Aim, Akatsuki headquarters. So that's what happened, White Zetsu finished. What will you do now? Asked Black Zetsu. Madara remained silent. The Hokage is organizing a 5-cage summit in Iron Country in 1 week's time, White Zetsu informed. Hitaki Kakashi is dead. Who is the new Hokage? Pain inquired. Namikaze Naruto, White Zetsu answered to the surprise of those in the room. Of course, with Danzo dead, he is the best choice, Pain nodded in understanding. This is unfortunate. I had hoped Itachi would die at Sasuke's hands so we could use him. Madara's voice was harsh and laced with anger. Sasuke is nothing but an ignorant little child who throws his anger at everything he can, Pain stated as he turned away. He is irrelevant, was all he said before he vanished into the darkness with Konan right behind him. Disrespectful little Senju, you should respect your betters. Even in my weakened form I can kill you, Madara thought as his mask started to distort and spiral around him. Just you wait until I have the rest of the Biju. And then we shall see exactly where you stand in my new world. He was gone a moment later. Fire Country. Hokage Monument, Council Chamber. Naruto stood up in front of the 2 other ninja in the room garbed in cage robes and wearing the Hokage hat. Tayuya and Sai stood in front him trying not to flinch, which even Sai was finding hard to do. I will soon be heading to the summit. Each cage is allowed only 2 guards and no exceptions. You 2 have been chosen because I know when shit happens you can handle yourselves, Naruto spoke simply. It shouldn't be too hard, Tayuya said confidently. But still, I doubt Akatsuki will ignore this summit, Sai added. I'm hoping they try something, Naruto said grinning. Just to give us a reason for the 5 villages to bring down their combined strength on them. That's a bit reckless, Tayuya muttered. But effective, Naruto countered as he approached the door. Let's go, he said over his shoulder. Yes, Hokage-sama. Sai and Tayuya nodded, though by Tayuya's tone it was clear that she was amused. Iron Country. Forest. Uchiha Sasuke rushed through the snow-covered trees as quickly as he could, his team right behind him as he jumped from tree to tree. He and Sakura had spent a full 3 hours putting this team together so they could assassinate the new Hokage at the meeting he had called in this country. The team itself was made up of his scout, a red-headed girl named Karen, and the 2 heavy hitters, Jugo and Suigetsu. They had made a short detour to Wave Country for the Kabikuri Hocho, Momochi Zabuza's old sword, which had been used as a marker for his grave. Suigetsu wanted the blade and had said he'd only join Sasuke if he could have it. The only reason Sasuke really agreed to it was because Wave Country was on the way to Iron Country. A flicker of orange caught the Uchiha's attention before it expanded into a swirling vortex of some kind. Sasuke stopped on one of the branches as the others did the same behind him. What the hell is that? Suigetsu asked in surprise. The vortex spiraled until it took the shape of a man wearing an orange spiral mask and a large Akatsuki cloak. Is he Akatsuki? Hello Sasuke, the stranger greeted. His chakra. It came out of nowhere, what the hell? Karen asked as she concentrated on the man. How did you know where I was? Sasuke demanded. Don't underestimate me, it is well within my power, the masked man spoke simply. What do you want with me? Sasuke inquired. I have a job for you, the stranger stated. Who are you? Sasuke asked him. My name is Uchiha Madara, he answered, surprising the group. Your chakra is vile and reminds me of Uchiha Madara. So you're the one the Kyuubi compared me to, Sasuke said with narrowed eyes. Am I supposed to care? He asked. Madara chuckled at that. No, but I know you don't care about your revenge. It's such a shame Itachi had to die by Naruto's hands instead of your own. Do not speak to me of Itachi. Sasuke shouted as he jumped towards the stranger with his fist covered in lightning. Chidori, he called out as he struck. Only tea of all through Madara's body like it wasn't even there. What? Is that some kind of jutsu? He thought as he steadied himself on another branch. I told you not to underestimate me, Even Itachi could not defeat when we fought, Madara told him. Sasuke didn't respond to that, instead opting to glare. Know your place, child. What do you want exactly? Sasuke demanded. What I want is the Kyuubi, Madara answered darkly. You want Naruto? Fine, you can have him as long as I get to crush him completely, Sasuke responded. Then we are agreed, Madara nodded with a chuckle. Madara-sama, a voice called as a figure rose from the branch of a nearby tree. Who's that? Karen asked. Calm down. He's with me, Madara told her and turned to the newcomer. Zetsu. So who is the new Raikage? He asked. Ni Yugito, White Zetsu answered. Of course, Madara chuckled at the irony of the situation. Yugito is the Raikage? Sakura said in disbelief. What the hell happened in Kumo? She demanded. One of my minions, Pain destroyed the village, but because he and Itachi made such a commotion recently, Naruto was forced to organize a 5-cage summit. They're all on the move now, Madara explained. What do you want to do, Otokage-sama? Suigetsu asked. We head to the summit and kill the cages, excluding the Dobi and that demon woman. You can have them, Madara. As long as I get to crush them, Sasuke responded. Excellent, Madara chuckled again. Zetsu, he said, and his companion nodded. I'll lead you, White Zetsu said as he both halves of him split apart. Follow me, White Zetsu said as he jumped into the trees with the Auto team following close behind. That went well, Black Zetsu commented after they left. No, I can't believe Naruto was able to defeat Itachi. Though I suppose it was fitting that the only one capable of matching an Uchiha was a Senju in all but name. Even if Sasuke were to become more powerful than Itachi, if we can't control him, then he's no use to us. I had planned to use Itachi's death at Sasuke's hands to make him more controllable. But clearly Naruto's actions have changed things, Madara stated clearly. I'm surprised you accounted for the possibility of Itachi's death by Naruto's hands, Black Zetsu said, intrigued. It's not what I had wanted, but I always keep at least one backup plan just in case something goes wrong. Namikaze Naruto. That brat's thrown quite the wrench into my plans. Madara's voice sounded both annoyed and disgusted. What are you going to do? Will you make your move? Black Zetsu asked him. I've had enough of being cautious. I think it's time to hurry up and implement the Moon's Eye plan. Madara looked up at the sky and chuckled. Further away, Sasuke and his group were following White Zetsu as he led them towards their destination. Can we trust him? Jugo asked from his side. Let's just see what happens, Sasuke told him. If he tries anything funny, I'll use Amaterasu on him. There's something I've been wanting to test out anyway. Chapter 33. Summit. Iron Country, Sanro. The journey to Iron Country was uneventful, and once the Konoha ninjas met up with several samurai on patrol, they were escorted to where the summit was taking place. At the entrance they were greeted by a man who radiated authority and was clearly not amused at the situation. We've been waiting for you, Hokage Dono. You're the last one to arrive. I am of Iron Country, my name is Mifune, the man greeted. It's nice to meet you. I apologize for our tardiness, but we got here as soon as we could. My name is Naruto, I'm the Hokage, the blonde responded with a nod. Right this way, Hokage Dono, Mifune said before turning and leading the ninjas into the structure. They soon arrived in a large room with a number of people standing against stone pillars that dotted around it. Naruto first spotted the Tsuchikage, a small old man who looked like he already had one foot in the grave but would still take down anyone who challenged him. Next was the Mizukage, an auburn-haired woman appeared to be smiling but radiated a barely concealed dangerous aura. Then there was the Kazekage. Gaara, Naruto greeted. Namikaze Naruto. So you are the new Hokage. I had feared someone dangerous had taken the job, Gaara nodded. You mean Danzo? I wouldn't worry about him anymore, Naruto waved it off. When Gaara didn't say anything, he continued, have you seen the Raikage? You mean me? A familiar female voice spoke from behind him. He turned and came face to Che. I mean face with one knee. Yugito, Naruto? Yugito? You're the Raikage? Asked a confused Naruto. Yugito nodded in reply, yes. I just wish it were under better circumstances. Naruto nodded in understanding. This way, please follow me. Mifune spoke to the room and led everyone to a smaller room with a large table in the center and a balcony above them. Please have a seat and place your hats on the table. The cages complied and the guards they brought with them moved to the balcony above to keep watch. You are here today because the Hokage has called this meeting. My name is Mifune and I will be your moderator. The meeting will begin now, he finished. I'll go first, listen up, Gaara spoke up. The makeup of the 5 cages sure has changed. You must be something special to be made cage at your age. Your father must have taught you right, but apparently he forgot to instill manners in you, Oneki commented amused. I guess that's why I'm here as cage now. Gaara shot back causing the old man to laugh. Cheeky brat, Oneki laughed. Tsuchikage Dono, please stop interrupting. Cage Dono, please continue, Mei said trying to get back on track. I'm a former Jinchuriki. Akatsuki captured me and nearly killed me while extracting the Ichibi from me. That's why I believe Akatsuki is extremely dangerous, Gaara explained. I requested aid from the other cages many times, but they all ignored me. Except for of course the former Hokage and Raikage, though at this point with so many Jinchuriki captured. It's too late for aid, he finished. Oneki snorted at that. If a country has had its Jinchuriki captured, it has no business giving other countries orders. It's an embarrassment, you should have tried to recover it in secret. Once it is stolen you can't expect other countries to help you, Oneki declared to the room. I suggest you watch what you say, Tsuchikage Dono. You're in the room with the last 2 Jinchuriki alive. A former Jinchuriki and 2 wielders of the Rinnegan. I'll let that comment slide this time but I won't always be so lenient, Naruto spoke up. Oneki snorted with a smirk, you're all bark and no bite namikaze. Just like my father then, Naruto responded causing the Tsuchikage to glare. We're getting off topic, Yugito reasoned. Just because the Biju have been stolen is no reason to be afraid, it takes time and knowledge to control them. Not to mention skill, Mei continued. The Jinchuriki must grow with the Biju they contain in order to adapt to them and even then control is difficult. It won't happen immediately. Right Cage Dono? Hokage Dono? Raikage Dono? Asked the Tsuchikage. Who needs control when fighting Akatsuki? Considering what their members have been like I would have thought it would be more practical to hit them with superior power or numbers. It's worked for us so far, Naruto responded. Yes, and now there are only 2 Jinchuriki left, Oneki shot back. Only Uchiha Madara, Senju Hashirama, the Yondaime Mizukage, Yagura and the Yondaime Raikage's brother, Killer Bee have ever been able to completely control a Biju. 2 of which are the descendants of the Rikudo Sennin, Naruto pointed out. Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama both inherited his power so naturally the Rinnegan is responsible for that. The Rikudo Sennin, he's nothing but a myth, Oneki snorted. And yet I wield the Rinnegan, Naruto shot back. I may not be able to control the Kyuubi as I am now but I can suppress it anytime I want with or without the seal on my stomach. After a few moments of silence he continued. There is a man in Akatsuki who also has the Rinnegan. He is the apparent leader of the organization but he is a figurehead for the real leader of Akatsuki. Real leader? Mei asked curiously. Uchiha Madara, his answer surprised everyone in the room. I thought he was long since dead, Oneki said clearly shocked at this piece of information. I don't understand it either but it's definitely him, Naruto confirmed. I never thought he was literally a monster, Oneki said as he took a breath. That's why I think they'll be able to use the Biju without any problems. 16 years ago Madara sent the Kyuubi to attack Konoha but the more I think about it the more it seems like he wanted the Kyuubi to be defeated and sealed, Naruto explained with a sigh. So he could extract it from a Jinchuriki along with the rest of the Biju, Yugito said catching on. That sounds like something he would do, Oneki commented. He was always insane and dangerous, especially when he controlled the Kyuubi. Between Pain, a wielder of the Rinnegan and Madara, Akatsuki could make a powerful force if they decide to attack, Naruto said simply. Then what do we do? Mei asked the question. As a neutral country, I have to say the leaders of Akatsuki have clearly read the times. They used the stability and suspicion of the other countries to increase their own power. At this rate, even Iron Country is at risk, but there is a silver lining. It's rare for the 5 cages to come together like this. What do you say to forming an alliance until Akatsuki is taken care of? Mifune asked the cages. An alliance? Yugito inquired curiously. I think the only way to bring Konoha peace is to unite the world. The memory of his own words flashed through the Hokage's mind before he quickly came to a decision. I agree. An alliance would make it harder for Akatsuki to openly move and we might be able to force them into a corner. The chain of command should be uniform. We want to avoid further confusion as much as possible, Mifune continued. So, the question is who will have the authority over the new army? Oneki asked the question. You will only fight amongst yourselves, so I would like you to respect my position as a neutral party. I will decide who amongst you is best suited for the job, Mifune said clearly. Alright, who? Oneki asked, clearly running out of patience. The Hokage, Mifune answered, surprising the room. Like hell, I'll follow the orders of that man's child, Oneki said in anger. Mifune Dono, I just took the position of Hokage barely a week ago, Naruto spoke his opinion. Konoha has done more damage to Akatsuki than any other faction, even if you were aided by Kumo and Suna on several occasions. You also wield the Rinnegan, so it should only be fitting that you lead the alliance against the force which threatens the entire world, Mifune explained his reasoning. There is also the fact that Uchiha Madara originally founded Konoha with Senju Hashirama, so again it is fitting that Konoha leads the battle against him. The room fell into silence after that. Why not someone else? Naruto asked him. Kazekage Dono and Raikage Dono are too young. You are in fact too young, but you specifically have the most experience in dealing with Akatsuki out of everyone in this room. Tsuchikage Dono on the other hand is too old for the position and would be seen by many of the smaller villages as having mobility problems. Mizukage Dono, she would make a good choice, but her village's reputation may become a negative factor when dealing with Akatsuki in any of the smaller countries. I don't know Akatsuki's plans for the Biju, but we can't let the Kyuubi or the Nibi fall into their hands, Mifune explained. Again the room fell silent. What is your answer? Mifune asked the Hokage. Suddenly a white figure erupted from the center of the room, surprising everyone. Hello. White Zetsu shouted as the guards dropped down from above onto the tables. Now what? Yugito growled out. Akatsuki? Naruto queried. So it would appear, Oneki replied. Uchiha Sasuke is here somewhere. The question is where? White Zetsu asked with a grin. Let's all search for Sasuke, come on, he called out. Sasuke? What the hell is he doing here? Naruto inquired. He works for Akatsuki now, White Zetsu explained. Yugito was suddenly over the table and had her hand firmly around the intruder's neck. She slammed him into the ground as lightning danced across her body. She's fast, White Zetsu thought as the Raikage glared down at him. Akatsuki is here? Tell me where before I crush you, Yugito growled at him. Oh fine, I'll give you one hint, White Zetsu said, amused, until Yugito snapped his neck and dropped his corpse to the floor. She turned away and said to her escorts, "She helped me locate the intruders. There was no reason to kill him. If we had captured him, you have been able to get some intel on Akatsuki out of him," Maid told the young Raikage. Screw the interrogation, there's no one in Akatsuki who would willingly betray them. The only reason Orochimaru did was because he failed in taking over Itachi's body, Naruto said, standing up also. They're all hardcore, Gaara commented. Darui, let's go, Yugito shouted as she punched a hole through the wall to make an exit. Sorry about that wall, Darui said to the samurai as he and she made to follow their cage. Good grief, she's just like her grandfather at that age, Oneki commented at the sight. Tayuya, Sai, you two follow me, Naruto spoke as he dashed out of the room. It's time for a Team Kakashi reunion, he finished before vanishing down the corridor. What? Karen thought in surprise as her senses flared. What is it, Karen? Jugo asked her. The samurai are starting to move, they seem to be looking for us, Karen answered quickly. Zetsu. It was him, Jugo stated. It's no use, there are too many of them. They'll capture us for sure, Karen said to the team. That bastard Zetsu. I won't forget this, Suigetsu said through gritted teeth. Just then Sasuke jumped out in front of a squad of samurai as they channeled lightning chakra into their swords. Samurai can control chakra too? Karen asked, confused. I had no idea they could use chakra like that, Suigetsu commented as Sakura appeared at the Otokage's side. What are they doing? Karen asked, almost panicking. I'm really pissed off right now, come at me. I won't go easy on you, Sasuke said to the samurai. Neither will we, the leader shouted as he sent 2 lightning slashes at him. Sasuke swiped the Kusanagi up and the lightning attacks dissolved. He deflected them? That jutsu looked like ours. Sasuke shot forward without a word and started slicing through the samurai faster than they could react. Damn it. Why is he killing them? Suigetsu asked through gritted teeth. His chakra is completely different from earlier. It's a lot darker than before. Colder too, Karen commented, shivering slightly. Something's coming, she shouted as the ceiling above them exploded and 6 figures dropped down in the room. Well, isn't this a nice little reunion? Asked a male voice she didn't recognize. You two really are working with Akatsuki now. You'll both be dead by the end of the day, declared a woman's voice she also didn't recognize. Naruto, Yugito, Sakura nodded in greeting. Dobi, demon woman, Sasuke snorted at the pair. With Ero Sennin dead, I now run his spy network. I have to say, when I found out you were the new Otokage, I was surprised, Naruto stated, amused. Not as much as we were when we heard you two became the Hokage and the Raikage, Sasuke continued. We heard about Kakashi-sensei too, Sakura added. And that Itachi was killed by you. Sasuke finished with a glare at the Hokage. Naruto nodded in understanding. If you want to kill me, then you're welcome to try Teme. No matter what happens here today, the bond we all have as Team Kakashi will be forever severed, Yugito declared as her body exploded in electricity. Let's go wild, Naruto finished as he also shifted into his most powerful form. Chapter 34. Friends and Enemies Part 1. Iron Country, Sanro. I won't show mercy, Dobi. Sasuke shouted as he shot forward, his left hand covered in lightning. Naruto shot forward also, prompting Yugito to shout, wait. Naruto. Sasuke, maybe. You and I are opposites, Naruto thought as they closed in on each other. Chidori. Sasuke called out with his arm outstretched. Rasengan. Naruto exclaimed as the two attacks clashed. And the world around them was consumed in light. The two stood apart from each other in the empty white void. You know, everyone in the village used to hate me. They hated me because of the Kyuubi, and I used to hate them too. There were times when I wanted revenge. One misstep and I might have come to the same horrible conclusion you did. I thought I had no connections with anyone until I met you and Iruka-sensei. I knew you were always alone and I was relieved there was someone else like me. I wanted to talk to you but I didn't. I was jealous because you could do anything, so I decided you would be my rival. I wanted to be like you. I finally had some connections. As we fulfilled our duties as Team 7 and later as Team Kakashi, I was always chasing after you, wanting to be as strong as you. I'm glad I met you, Naruto said with a smile. Naruto. Nothing you say can change my mind. I'm going to kill you. You took away my revenge. You took away my purpose. Sasuke shouted at him. Naruto nodded at that. I know. Your only choices are to kill me and be the hero who protects the village, or just another loser that I kill. The choice is yours, Sasuke said clearly. Naruto just continued to smile. My choice is. Everyone covered their eyes as the explosion rocked the entire building and hurled the two combatants across the room on opposite sides. Bansho Tenin. Tayuya called out as she tried to slow Naruto's speed just long enough for Sai to catch him. Sasuke-kun, Sakura exclaimed in surprise as Suigetsu caught him. What were you thinking charging straight in like that? Yugito asked him in a voice mixed with anger and worry. Now, I know for sure, Naruto whispered, either not hearing her or ignoring her. He rose to his feet as Sai asked, now you know what Hokage-sama? Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked, confused as she looked back and forth between the two. So that's your answer? Sasuke said lowly. I refuse to believe that is the only outcome. I cannot accept that, the Uchiha shouted out. We've become first-class ninja. You saw it as plain as day. It's not too late. If you leave now we can forget this ever happened, Naruto told him. Sasuke just shook his head in response. I can't accept that, Dobi. I can't. Then you are truly lost, Naruto sighed in disappointment. Why do you go so far? Sasuke questioned. Because we're friends, Naruto's answer surprised him. Sasuke, we may not be able to understand each other by ordinary methods, but I knew that from the first time we met. We can understand each other with our fists and there's nothing wrong with that. After all, like I said, it means we've become first-class ninja. Naruto. Sakura trailed off in thought as she looked at her former teammate. But I haven't given up on trying to speak to you both. I mean, I've never been a good talker anyway, so what the hell am I doing lecturing you? Hehehe, even if we both end up dying in the end, at least we won't have to deal with the Uchiha and the Kyuubi. Not burdened with any of that, Naruto said with a shrug. I refuse to believe that is the answer, Sasuke said simply. Come here so I can rip you to shreds, he said with a glare. Yeah. Telling me you're going to rip me to shreds isn't going to make me come any closer, Naruto said while experiencing severe déjà vu. Okay, I sounded way too much like dad for a second there. She now, Yugito ordered. Rinnegan Rikochu, she exclaimed as he cast the genjutsu. Stand firm, it's nothing more than an illusion, Sasuke told the others. Raiden no Yoroi, Yugito whispered as she appeared in front of the Uchiha in an instant. Sakura moved in front of her and blocked the attack with her own super strength, not bad Pinky. Her physical strength is on my level while she's using that jutsu of hers, Sakura thought as the two tried to push the other off balance. The auto team jumped away and regrouped a few feet away. This isn't going to be as easy as we'd thought. The guy in the back is a censor. So is the Raikage. We're going to have to take them both and Naruto down if we're going to get out of here alive. Anyone up for it? Sakura asked the others. I'll do it. Jugo spoke up as his curse seal came to life and started to cover High Body. He roared as the curse seal consumed him completely. I'll kill you. Damn. His personality changed more than his appearance. Everyone be on guard, his chakra just enlarged, Yugito commented. Now that Jugo is in killer mode, do you think he'll remember we're still on his side? Suigetsu asked him teammates. As long as you don't get in his way then you'll be fine, Sakura responded. I hope so, the swordsman muttered. A second later Yugito appeared in front of them and slugged Jugo across the face, sending him flying back across the room. He sailed through the air for a few seconds before crashing hard into the far wall, sending dust out from where the impact. Yugito appeared in front of the mutated Auto Nin and delivered a fierce punch to his ribs. While this was happening, Suigetsu appeared behind Shi and swung the Kabikiri Hocho at him. Gotcha. He was blocked, however. Darui, who had moved to intercept him, nice sword. Thanks, Darui responded simply as Hisai appeared behind Suigetsu and made to stab him with his own tanto. Suigetsu backed off and readied his Kabikiri Hocho once more. This is getting interesting. Across the room, Tayuya jumped away as Sakura struck down on where she had been standing with damaging results. Hold still, the pinkette shouted as she sent a jump after her. Satenkyaku, she called out as she swung her leg down on the redhead. Shinra Tensai, Tayuya exclaimed in response and sent Sakura down towards the floor. Just then a large beam of energy exploded across the room, melting everything it touched and surprising the two. Jugo mustn't be holding back, Sakura commented upon seeing the blast. That was one of your teammates? Tayuya asked incredulously. He's the one who spawned the curse seal. And the only one who has a level 3 curse seal, Sakura explained. I killed her. Who's next? Jugo asked almost insanely. Kaizuki, Yugito whispered as she appeared at his side and slashed his left arm clean off. Damn you bitch! Jugo shouted in anger. Hey Tayuya, trade ya? Yugito asked over her shoulder. Fine, the redhead agreed and the two turned their attention to their new opponents. Shinra Tensai, she shouted and blasted the mutated Auto Nin into the wall again. She then brought her hands together and created a small gravity well ball. Chibaku Tensai, she called out as she threw the ball at him. He laughed insanely as his cannons fired once more and hit the ball as it approached. It had no effect, however, and in fact seemed to enlarge it just before it struck him in the chest. He could feel his body being ripped apart and crushed as the ball started to draw in everything in the area. Tayuya kept it going until the room started to fall apart under the intense pressure of the attack. After it was over, Jugo was no more and Tayuya was left staring at the place where he once stood. She looked around in search of her allies but found that Yugito and Sakura were gone. Suddenly the sound of a bell-like screech filled the air and everyone turned to see 3 Narutos charging a spinning white shuriken-like weapon. Futon. Rasen Shuriken, he exclaimed as he hurled the chakra shuriken at Sasuke. So this is how he defeated Itachi. Sasuke thought as evaded the attack and managed to escape from the wind sphere it expanded into. He rolled across the ground as the force of the resulting detonation blew him away, such an outrageous concentration of chakra. Futon. Rinnegan. Naruto followed it up with a large blast of wind from his mouth which destroyed the wall and forced the two of them outside into the snow. It was now that he felt his sage mode leave him. You can't win, Sasuke. What's the matter, Dobi? Running out of steam? Sasuke sneered as spiritual bones seemed to appear and encase him. Is that Susanoo? No, it must be a weaker version of it. So that's how you survived my attack just now, Naruto mused upon seeing it. But last time I checked, it requires the Mangekyo Sharingan in order to use it. It's because of Itachi, isn't it? He received no reply. I see. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I do not want your apologizes. I want to kill you. Sasuke shouted at him. Try it then, Naruto dared as the two locked eyes. Tsukuyomi, Sasuke whispered as the world around them disappeared. Anomaly. Tsukuyomi. Naruto found himself in a black and red world with Sasuke standing a few feet away. He couldn't move or even speak as Sasuke wordlessly approached with the kusanagi in hand. The last time we fought, you mentioned taking my life on a whim. Well, now I'm going to take your life on a whim, Sasuke declared as he brought up the sword and struck forward. Only to have his outstretched arm caught by a figure covered in shadow. What? Suddenly Naruto could move again and he looked over at the one who had intervened, Itachi. Brother, Sasuke whispered with wide eyes. I'm very disappointed in you, Sasuke, Itachi said clearly before backhanding the younger Uchiha away. But how are you here? Sasuke asked as he recovered quickly. I gave Naruto-kun some of my power. Just in case Madara got to you, Itachi replied. He hasn't got to me at all. I do this because I want to. Sasuke shouted in anger. You are still a child even now. I wanted you to use your hatred to push yourself beyond your limits and survive. However, now it is clear that you have allowed your hatred to consume you, Itachi said with a sad smile. He took a step towards his younger brother. I'm sorry. What are you? Sasuke started before he felt Itachi put a finger on his forehead just like he did so long ago. Sorry, Sasuke. This is the last time, Itachi said with a smile. The world around them turned white. Iron Country. Battlefield. Sasuke collapsed to his knees and clutched his head in his hands as he screamed in anguish. Naruto just stood where he was, unmoving as the Uchiha in front of him wailed with cries of pain that was both emotional and physical. Sasuke. Itachi loved you more than anything. Please don't make me kill you, Naruto pleaded with him. Shut up, Naruto. Damn it, he shouted in anger and pain as he felt his hatred continuing to manifest. Quickly Naruto unraveled his scroll and summoned a sage clone, Gyaku Kachiyose no Jutsu. The clone dispelled and his sage mode returned a second later. Can you even hear me, Sasuke? I said shut up. Amaterasu. Black flames shot towards the blonde. Shunpo no Jutsu. Naruto disappeared in a flash of yellow light and reappeared behind the Uchiha. Amaterasu no Tate, Sasuke whispered as black flames formed around the spiritual bones. Sho Udama Rasengan. Naruto struck with the massive spinning chakra ball in hand and reduced the landscape to a crater. Boulders, trees and the earth itself were blown away, leaving a noticeable hole in the earth where the jutsu had detonated. When the dust cleared, Sasuke could be seen standing in the middle of a large Yamabushi with a bow and shield in each arm. That's not like Itachi's Susanoo, Naruto thought. Sasuke didn't say a word as the Yamabushi brought up its bow and fired an arrow at the blonde. What's with that arrow's speed? Unable to move, Naruto poured as much chakra as he could into his next jutsu, Shinra Tensai. The spiritual arrow impacted the jutsu and dissipated, but it managed to almost reach Naruto before finally fading. I overused by gravity jutsu and I was still barely able to stop his attack. I can't take a hit from one of those. Dai Dobi. Sasuke shouted in rage as the Yamabushi fired another arrow. At first Naruto didn't react but knew that he wouldn't be able to dodge or deflect the attack this time, so he was forced to tap into Kyuubi's chakra like he had done many times before. After his fight with Danzo, he had originally been against using it, but he knew that as long as he was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki he would have to use its power to survive. And survival was all the fox cared about. His form disappeared in a column of crimson light as the Kyuubi's chakra consumed his body in its sinister embrace. The light died down a few moments later to reveal a human-sized chakra fox with 6 tails behind him and bones covering him. Sasuke saw this and fired another arrow intent on putting an end to this once and for all. The arrow struck the Kyuubified Naruto in the chest with devastating force, blowing up dust and granite as the sound echoed across the battlefield. When it cleared, the fox stepped around a large slab of rock and grinned towards Sasuke, who was glaring back fiercely. "So this is what it's come to, Hadobi?" "It doesn't matter," Sasuke said through rasped breaths as he continued to glare. Naruto disappeared in a burst of speed a moment later and reappeared beside him. "What?" Naruto gave out a loud roar as he threw out a punch and tore into the side of the Yamabushi, almost reaching Sasuke himself before the Uchiha was able to react and swat him away with the large spiritual shield. Oh no! Sasuke's eyes widened slightly when he saw the fox forming a black ball of chakra at his mouth. "I have to stop him." He fired another arrow at him, if only to stop him from finishing his jutsu. He was too late. Rokubiko Ima. The arrow struck before he finished charging and forced the jutsu to destabilize. The world around the two fighters disappeared in a miniature sun. Chapter 35. Friends and Enemies Part 2. Iron Country. Battlefield. Two paths. They're too far apart to be called destiny, yet too close to be called fate. Naruto and Sasuke stood apart, both clearly exhausted and barely able to stand. The destruction around them would scar the landscape for generations to come. Long after the two warriors, brothers in all but blood, were dead and gone. Still, a victor needed to be determined. "I had to shut off Kyuubi's chakra or risk losing control like I did against Danzo. My last sage clone must have dispelled again. I'm in sage mode," Naruto thought as he looked over at his opponent. "Well, at least I took out Susanoo, but I only have one shot at taking him out for good." "What's the matter, Dobi? Don't tell me you're scared?" Sasuke taunted. "You were the scaredy cat on our team, Sasuke. Do you remember the last time we fought?" "It feels like a lifetime ago," Naruto asked with a smile. "Not that it matters now. Let's finish this, Sasuke." The Uchiha narrowed his eyes as Naruto formed a familiar hand seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. "He's going to throw another one of his chakra shurikens," Sasuke realized as his eyes shifted into the Mangekyo Sharingan in preparation. Just then he saw four clones charging two separate chakra shurikens at the same time. "He can use two of those things." "Futon. Suin Rasen Shuriken," Naruto called out as he hurled the two jutsus at the Uchiha. Amaterasu, black flames erupted towards the blonde Hokage and slammed into one of the chakra shurikens, forcing it to detonate prematurely. Sasuke tracked the next one as it sailed towards him and narrowly jumped over. It continued on for several feet before detonating in a ball of wind and power, shredding everything within range. Sasuke turned his attention back to the blonde and his eyes widened slightly when he saw the distortion of chakra in his hand. "Chibaku Tensai," Naruto exclaimed as he threw the gravity ball at the Otokage. Wings erupted from Sasuke's back as his curse seal took effect and he jumped high into the air, using his wings to gain speed. The gravity ball expanded and drew in everything within range and compressing it into a reasonably large sphere of solid ground. "Kukakuku, you missed, Dobi," Sasuke chuckled like a snake. "Bansho Tenin," Naruto yelled, and suddenly the large moon-like ball was thrown at the airborne Sasuke. "What?" Sasuke explained in thought as the sphere slammed into him and then down to the surface. The miniature moon crashed down on the earth and rolled, blowing up dust as it moved and leaving a wave of destruction in its wake. When the dust cleared, rubble dotted the area around the impact and Naruto could be seen taking staggered breaths and gazing down from a large slab of rock. Sasuke wasn't any better off, having his cloak torn to shreds and his upper body littered with cuts and bruises. "So you survived, Hateme?" "Hey," Naruto coughed as he tried to chuckle. His breathing steadied and he smiled. "How about it, Sasuke? One final clash?" Sasuke didn't respond, instead forming several hand seals and encasing his fist in lightning. He shot forward and jumped, his hand outstretched and aimed at Naruto's heart. Naruto himself had jumped high with his father's jutsu in hand and thrust it out in one swift motion. Rasengan. Chidori. The two became encased in a blinding light as they both battled for dominance, sending waves of wind, lightning and sheer power cascading in all directions. At that moment Naruto thought of his friends and family he had in Konoha and silently swore he wouldn't let them come to harm as long as he was the Hokage. He was the Rokudame Hokage. He broke through, surprising Sasuke just before he slammed the spiraling sphere into his former friend and blowing him back. Sasuke fell and struck the rubble below, blowing up dust and smoke with an echoing impact. Naruto hit the ground a moment later and rolled to a stop at the base of a nearby slab of upturned rock. Naruto coughed and used every scrap of energy he had left and could actually muster to stand on his own feet again. He fell down a second later though and shakily started to crawl towards where Sasuke had fell. When he finally got there he saw Sasuke lying in the center of a medium-sized crater, a hole through his stomach and what looked like a pained grimace on his face. "Sasuke. Itachi is waiting for you. Go to him," Naruto whispered, and he saw Sasuke's expression return to neutral. If he didn't know any better he thought that maybe Sasuke had heard him. Suddenly a blinding light exploded from his body and landed in Naruto's hands. Naruto didn't even bother looking at it this time since he already knew that it could only be a chakra crystal necklace. 6 of 6. Life. Eyes and body, weakened. I now have all 6. But what are they for? Naruto asked in thought as put the necklace on. What a disappointment he was, echoed a voice from behind him. Naruto snapped his head around sharply and his eyes widened. You're coming with me, little Senju, Uchiha Madara said clearly as his mask began to spin wildly, creating a vortex around them. They were both gone a second later. Iron Country, Sanro. Well, at least you sorted out your priorities, Pinky, Yugito taunted as she used her superior speed to close the distance between them. But you still have a long way to go before you can match my Raiden no Yoroi. Sakura narrowly evaded the punch that was thrown at her. Yugito's punch struck the wall and went through it, blowing out a good 20 meters of it too. Okasho, Sakura called out as she landed a punch to the blonde girl's side. Fuck, that hurt, Yugito grunted as the two broke apart. Mokuton Hijutsu. Jukai Koden, Sakura said clearly, and a large number of trees exploded from the ground. How the hell can she use Mokuton Jutsu? She's not a Senju or an Uzumaki, Yugito thought in alarm. I'm sure you're wondering how I can use Mokuton Jutsu. Think of them as spoils of war from my fight with that Konoha Anbu guy the first fought from the last time we met, Sakura explained. You experimented on Yamato Taicho? Yugito demanded angrily. Yes, the Pinkette replied simply. Why would you do something like this? After everything we've been through. Tell me why? Yugito demanded with a glare. Sakura stood frozen for a moment, tears starting to form at the edge of her eyes and giving a small but happy smile. I did it for Sasuke-kun, she answered with both happiness and sadness at the same time. You love him that much? Yugito asked her. Sakura nodded with a tearful smile. It may have started out as a crush, but he's my world, he always has been. She wiped away the tears and took a deep breath. I'm sorry. You've made your choice, Pinky. It's the wrong one, Yugito said simply. Maybe it was, Sakura admitted. But if I could do it all over again I wouldn't change a thing. She smiled at the memory of her time with Sasuke. Let's finish this, Pinky, Yugito said clearly. Sakura nodded and formed several hand seals, Mokuton, Daijiren no Jutsu. She threw out her right arm and several spikes of wood shot out towards the rakeage. Raiden no Yoroi, Yugito thought as she evaded the attack and closed the distance between them. Kaizuki, she called out as her arm ignited in flames. Mokuton. Mokujoheki, Sakura whispered as wood shot up and formed a half-sphere between them. Do you really think that's going to be enough? Don't insult me. Kaden. Dai Kaizuki. The blade enlarged and sliced through the barrier in one swift motion, forcing Sakura to jump away. Sakura landed on one of the branches above the blonde and glared down at her. As long as she's using that jutsu of hers I can't deal any real damage. I need to use the gates if I want to win this, the Pinkette thought and made a hand seal. What is she doing? Yugito looked on confused and wary. Kaimon, Kumon, Simon, Shomen, Tomen, Kimon, Kai. Sakura shouted as her chakra exploded from her body in large amounts. Yugito's eyes went wide at seeing the amount of chakra being released. You've opened your celestial gates? Are you insane? Shut up. Sakura shouted in anger as she disappeared in a burst of speed and reappeared in front of the rakeage. Yugito's enhanced reflexes kicked in and she was able to avoid the barrage of punches thrown at her head and chest. Yugito saw an opening in Sakura's attacks and thrust out a kick as fast as she could towards the Pinkette's midsection, only for Sakura to disappear again. Shit, she's as fast as I am. No. This isn't good. Yugito realized in thought as she jumped away in a burst of speed. Suddenly Sakura appeared above her and attacked, forcing Yugito to bring her arms up in defense. Double shit. Satenkyaku, Sakura called out as she swung her outstretched leg down on Yugito's position. The tree shattered under the force of the blow and Yugito fell straight down at alarming speeds, unable to change course or grab onto anything. She crashed down on the stone floor below with a deafening thud and an explosion of smoke and dust. Sakura landed on the branch of one of the trees and looked down at the clearing smoke. Suddenly a loud roar filled the air, accompanied by a wave of bloodlust and raw heat. Yugito now stood on the stone floor, as a large purple demon fire cat with two rather large tails and a monstrous grin. By now Sakura had already resealed her gates and was in the process of healing her self-inflicted wounds, but kept her eyes trained on the large, miniature Biju. This isn't going to be a walk in the park, Sakura thought grimly. Hi Nami, Yugito snarled as she sent a blast of flames at her. Sakura jumped over the blast as it incinerated the trees around her and she landed on the stone floor. Hold still Pinky. I can't win while she's in this form. I'll need to suppress her with the Shodai Hokage's jutsu, Sakura thought as she looked up at the monstrous demon cat in front of her. Suddenly a ball of fire started to form at the cat's mouth, causing her eyes to wide. Oh no. Nekomata Gukakyu. Sakura narrowly evaded that attack as the ball slammed into the wall behind her and exploded in a blast of heat and death which incinerated everything within range. Sakura was blown from position and crashed down into one of the stone pillars with enough force to shatter it. This action caused the ceiling above them to fall and crumble to the ground, almost burying them both alive. Had enough yet, Pinky? Yugito growled out. Shut up, Sakura yelled back as she formed a hand seal. Hokage Shiki Jijun Jutsu, Kakuon Niden Suishu. Suddenly wooden columns shot out the ground and grabbed Yugito's firetails along with her midsection, and surprisingly the wood wasn't burnt by her. Yugito let out an earth-shattering scream as the Nibi's chakra and flames left her form. She collapsed to the ground in a pile of blood as the wooden columns retracted and disappeared. Sakura approached her beaten form and grabbed her by the collar of her now shredded cloak. Yugito felt her head pounding as she was thrown clear out of the hole in the wall she had made earlier and fell several feet before crashing down onto the snow-covered ground below. This bloody bitch is pissing me off, Yugito thought grimly as Sakura appeared next to her again and kicked her in the side, sending the blonde crashing through one of the nearby trees. I'm cold and in pain. I'm really going to die, aren't I? Yugito asked in thought as she saw Sakura slowly approach. I hope you're happy. Sakura, for the first time since they met, she had finally called her by her name, now at the end. Goodbye Yugito. Sakura smiled sadly and swung her leg down on Yugito's head. Raiden. Kirin. Yugito whispered as a large dog-like monster made of lightning shot down from the sky and struck down on where the two were, catching them both in its embrace. When the light died down, Sakura had been completely vaporized and Madara stood where the two had been with Yugito in his arms. He put her down and chuckled, this went better than I'd hoped. Tayuya and Sai appeared alongside the rest of the cages and their escorts a moment later. Stop right there, Tayuya ordered, but Madara just looked up at them and his Sharingan spun wildly. Sasuke served his purpose well. I now have the Kyuubi and the Nibi. With all of the Biju in my possession, I can now start implementing my Moon's Eye plan. Until next time, Senju Tayuya. Madara spoke mockingly before disappearing in a swirl of orange with the unconscious Yugito. Oh no, Tayuya whispered fearfully as she reached out towards the space where Madara once stood. It was over. Chapter 36. Extraction Part 1. Waterfall Country. Akatsuki Hideout. It was dark and damp in the hideout when Naruto awoke groggily. After quickly getting his bearings, he saw that his arms and legs were restrained and he appeared to be on some kind of platform surrounded by what looked like a crystal. His first thought was to punch it, but it didn't break. Then he tried his signature jutsu but found that his chakra was completely sealed off. I wouldn't bother trying to escape Senju Naruto. He spun around quickly and came face to face with his worst enemy, Uchiha Madara. I think you've got me mistaken with someone else, Naruto said, finally knowing he was already captured. Madara chuckled slightly at that. You're right, but that doesn't change the fact that you are a Senju and a wielder of the Rinnegan to boot. You even have Hashirama's Will of Fire. I despise you and everything you stand for. The feeling is mutual, Teme. Naruto shot back and glared through the crystal. Even now you are unafraid of me. Even now knowing that I will kill you. You still refuse to bow before the superiority of the Uchiha. Madara shook his head as if he were talking to a child. Could you be any more full of yourself? Just because my ancestor and your ancestor were brothers and you ancestor just so happened to have a battle fan shoved up his ass sure as hell doesn't make him superior. I think I speak for everyone all over the shinobi world when I tell you to fuck off. Naruto bit back with a wide grin. You really don't understand the severity of the situation, do you? What I am trying to accomplish. The Senju were always the favored child of the Rikudo Sennin, but even Hashirama, and you have to come up with a plan to bring this world the peace that the Rikudo Sennin sought. I have, Madara declared almost gloatingly. Peace? Any peace you create will end in nothing but misery, Naruto responded in disgust. Everything will become one with me. It will be a perfect union and I will finally be complete, Madara began. What are you talking about? Naruto asked confused. At the dawn of the shinobi world, the Rikudo Sennin became known as a god among shinobi. The moon's eye plan is connected to what made him become worshipped as a god. You see, he saved the world from a monster. A monster which was a fusion of all of the Biju of today known as a Jubi, the Akatsuki agent explained, and Naruto fell quiet. The Rikudo Sennin divided the Jubi's chakra into the 9 Biju with the Kyuubi as the last and most powerful one of them all. In order to protect the world from the Jubi, the Rikudo Sennin created a new jutsu which is still in use today as the jutsu which seals away a Biju into a child, Madara explained. Are you saying he willingly created a Jinchuriki to save the world? Naruto asked after another moment of silence. He turned himself into a Jinchuriki in order to stop the monster and become its prison, at least temporarily. He saved the world from the Jubi and became worshipped as a god, but the demon's chakra was too powerful and deadly. When he discovered that the seal would break once he died, and he knew it would wreak havoc on the world again. On his deathbed he divided the Jubi into the Biju of today and sealed the Jubi's body and soul into the sky. Naruto. I don't have to tell you what jutsu he used to act as the Jubi's permanent prison, Madara said. Naruto knew what he was referring to, Chibaku Tensai. Madara nodded knowingly, correct. The moon that you see at night is the largest Chibaku Tensai ever constructed. A true monument to the Rikudo Sennin and his divine power. So you want the Jubi, and I guess the only way for you to get it is by fusing the 9 Biju back together. But what do you plan to do once you actually have the Jubi? Naruto asked, confused and intrigued. Madara chuckled at that and explained clearly. I want to become the Jubi Jinchuriki and use its power to complete my moon eye plan. With its power I will be able to use Mugen Tsukuyomi and cast it on the moon. I will be able to cast an illusion over everyone on Earth. I will control everyone and everything on Earth with my genjutsu, and the world will finally become one. A world without ill will or strife. Everything will become one with me. Everything will become united. That is my moon's eye plan, Madara declared. Make the world one? I think Danzo said something similar right before I killed him. If you think Konoha will just stand by and watch, then you've gone senile, old man. You will lose, Naruto said finally. I must say I am surprised, Senju Naruto. A revelation of this magnitude and still you don't falter an inch. Not that it matters, you will be dead soon enough. Madara chuckled slightly and turned away. Why did you tell me this? I'm going to die anyways, so why tell me? Naruto asked him. You are a Senju. I wanted to see the look on your face when you found out exactly how far the Uchiha have surpassed you, Madara spoke simply. Now nighty-night, little Senju. Madara clicked his fingers and Naruto suddenly collapsed against the crystal, clearly unconscious. Madara started down the corridor where the sealing room was located and where the zombie twins were finishing their preparations for the first extraction. Soon the world will be mine. Pain's hologram appeared in the central chamber and he spoke clearly to the room, assemble. Suddenly the remaining members of Akatsuki appeared in the room, either as another hologram or in person. Once we're done with the Nibi, we'll seal the Kyuubi. It'll take 4 days, so prepare yourselves. Stay aware of your physical forms and Zetsu, have your physical body stand guard. Use the one with the greatest range, got it? Understood, Zetsu nodded. Pain looked down at the body of Yugito lying on the ground and said, let's begin. Fuinjutsu. Genryu Q Fujin. Enemies approach the hideout, White Zetsu reported. How many enemies and who are they? Pain questioned. Several teams of Konoha nins led Senju Tsunade and Uzumaki Tayuya, Black Zetsu replied. Hidan, Kakuzu, you two head out and intercept them. Keep them from interfering, Pain ordered. Uzumaki Tayuya. She has an interesting bounty on her head, Kakuzu mused as he disappeared from the room. Wait for me, Kakuzu. Jashin-sama demands I be the one to kill them. Hidan called as he dashed after his partner. Hidan, shut up, Kakuzu said simply as they disappeared. Once they were gone, Pain turned to Madara and said, we should move the Kyuubi out of here now and extract it at another location. We may be able to finish extracting the Nibi, but once the task force from Konoha gets here we will be unable to extract the Kyuubi if we remain. I'll move him to the hideout on the grass country border once we finish with her, Madara stated. I can see peace, Pain thought as he returned his attention to the task at hand. Waterfall country, forest. Tayuya dashed through the trees as quickly as she could, constantly keeping herself from trying to overtake Tsunade, who was in charge of all Konoha forces while the Hokage was unavailable. She still couldn't believe what had happened after Madara had captured the weakened Naruto and Yugito, who were exhausted from their battles with two extremely powerful opponents, Akatsuki agents with unnatural strength. After Madara had kidnapped them, the other Kages voted to join together in an alliance against Akatsuki, forcing Tayuya to represent Konoha at the summit and a man named Darui to represent Kumo. They had all immediately returned to their homes in order to notify their respective villages of what has happened. Since Naruto had stated clearly that Tsunade was in charge of Konoha while he was gone, she was naturally given tactical command of the situation regarding Konoha, and she immediately put together a response and rescue team which included her. Sai had placed tracking devices on both Naruto and Yugito while at the summit on Naruto's orders should Akatsuki try anything. Naruto thought it was a necessary precaution, he was right. They had tracked the signal deep within Waterfall country and they had notified the other villages before heading out to try and rescue their Hokage and by proxy the Raikage. They didn't have much time, it had already been 3 days since the pair were captured, and if they didn't reach them soon then it would be too late. You did well, Tayuya. You can rest now, I've got this. Ni-san, the redhead thought as the memory flashed through her mind. Hey Tayuya, trade ya? Yugito. I should have been there. Tayuya continued and suddenly felt a hand on her shoulder. She looked over and saw it was Sai. You shouldn't worry too much, they'll be fine, Sai reassured her. Dickman. Sai, Tayuya nodded. Thanks, she whispered and turned her attention back to the front. Despite what many believed, Sai was learning quite quickly how to understand the atmosphere of a situation. It was something he had been working on since joining Team Naruto, and he could tell Tayuya was worried for her brother and her best friend more than anyone else besides Tsunade. Futon. Atsugai. Kaden. Zukaku, too, voiced exclaimed from above. Above us. Kiba shouted as a massive blast of heat and fire descended on the group. Fujutsu Kyuin, Tayuya whispered as she held up her hands and absorbed the large blast as 6 figures dropped down in front of them. Akatsuki? Ino asked as she looked them over. 4 of them appeared to be some kind of black-webbed monsters while the other 2 actually looked human. It would seem so, Sai confirmed and threw a volley of shuriken at Hidan. Hidan grinned and deflected them with his scythe before flinging it out and forcing Sai to dodge to the side as it slashed at him. He's fast. Raiden. Jian. Kakuzu exclaimed as lightning erupted from one of the masks attached to one of the creatures. Fujutsu Kyuin. Again Tayuya absorbed the attack but fell to one knee under its force. Tsunade appeared above the 2 Akatsuki agents and swung her leg down. Satenkyaku, she called out, smashing the area into a crater. Kakuzu, Hidan called in surprise as he slid away. I hardened my body with Doten. Domu at the last second, so I'm alright, Kakuzu answered as he recovered as well. He's got some jutsu that allows him to harden his body? Sounds similar to Yugito-chan's lightning jutsu, Tsunade mused. Tsunade of the Sannin, renowned for her medical knowledge but more importantly her super strength. I must say it has been a while since I fought a senju. Physical attacks are useless against me, so you aren't really a threat, Kakuzu spoke in an amused tone. Chidori, Tayuya called out as she appeared behind one of the webbed creature and cut her arm through its mask, causing it to shatter. What? Hidan exclaimed in surprise as he sent a look towards the Tayuya they had been fighting. It dissolved into water. She pulled a switch with a water clone. One down, Tayuya declared as the body convulsed before falling to the ground and dissolving. I didn't even sense you. Kakuzu's voice was filled with annoyance. Wait. Red hair and the Rinnegan. Uzumaki Tayuya, I presume? Yet another Senju comes out of nowhere to fight me. You have quite the bounty on your head, you know. Tsunade Obakin, Tayuya called, and Tsunade shot her dirty look promising pain if she called her that again. Take everyone on ahead while Sai and I deal with these two, she shouted. Alright. Catch up when you can, Tsunade said back and jumped away with the rest of the teams knowing they didn't have much time to complete the rescue. Alright, let's get to it, Hidan said with a grin. Agreed, Kakuzu nodded. Jashin-sama, behold, I give myself, body and soul, to the carnage that is to come. In your name, I will rip their insides out and shred their entrails. Hidan shouted to the heavens. Kakuzu made a hand seal and said, Hidan, stay back for now. No way, I want in on this action, Hidan told him. So let's just go with the usual, alright? Fine, Kakuzu answered finally. Hidan shot forward a moment later and appeared in front of Tayuya before she could blink. A second later, Sai came in from the side and parried the initial attack from the scythe with his tanto. Sai back-flipped onto a nearby tree and Hidan pursued a moment later, trying to gain the upper hand on the former root agent. Just the one of the webbed creatures appeared behind Hidan and let loose a massive blast of wind, futon. Atsugai. Tayuya covered her eyes to avoid the dust that was blown everywhere. He shot right through his own teammate. Why? When the dust died down, Hidan could be seen again without a scratch on him. What are they? Sai, fall back now. The redhead called and Sai quickly complied by appearing at her side. Running already? Hidan taunted. You wish, Shinra Tensai. Tayuya retorted and threw out a massive blast of gravity, surprising the two Akatsuki agents. Hidan crashed through a nearby boulder and Kakuzu sailed through one of the trees while the webbed creature slammed hard into the ground itself. You bitch, Hidan gritted out as he stood once more while his partner and the creatures did the same a moment later. Jashin-sama will take your soul, he shouted as he shot forward. I'll keep him busy, Sai spoke up and moved to intercept. The former root agent knew that of everyone on Team Naruto he was by far the weakest, but even so he was still an Anbu and wouldn't be beaten so easily. Choju Giga, he summoned several ink tigers to charge at the scythe-wielding maniac in front of him. Raiden. Jion. Kakuzu called out as he let loose 2 discharges of lightning chakra. Fujutsu Kyuin. Tayuya whispered as she brought her hands up to absorb the attack once again. What is with this guy? They're both strong, especially the one with the masks, but normally someone can only use high-level jutsu of their own affinity, yet he's already used earth, wind, fire and lightning. You are the first to have survived our routine. No doubt thanks to your Rinnegan, Kakuzu commented after a moment of silence. The only sound that was heard was of the random clang from their partners fighting not too far away. You're a Konoha nin, huh? You remind me of first Konoha nin I ever fought. A true piece of work, that one. The Shodai Hokage, he chuckled. What? Tayuya's eyes widened in shock. Unknown. Limbo. Yugito looked around at the white void around her and felt tears begin to fall down her face. She looked at her hand only to see it was fading in and out seemingly without end. Yugi-chan, she heard the voice she hadn't heard since she was 6 and turned quickly towards it. There, standing in front of her were Kurabi and her parents waving towards her. Mom, Dad, she stammered out as she cried. She embraced them a moment later. Waterfall Country. Outside Akatsuki hideout. Tsunade and the rest of the Konoha nins dropped down into the clearing in front of the entrance. We're here, Tsunade said clearly as she looked over the seal on the large door in front of them. Inside, Yugito floated in the center of the chakra bubble as her biju was sucked out and into the demonic statue a few feet away. They're outside, White Zetsu reported. It no longer matters, Pain responded as the chakra died down and Yugito's body dropped to the cold floor below. It is done, we have the Nibi. Chapter 37. Extraction Part 2. Waterfall Country. Akatsuki hideout. This seal on the entrance. I remember Jiraiya showing me one once. Neji, use your Byakugan and locate any other seal tags in the area, Tsunade ordered. The veins around Neji's eyes intensified and he spoke, "There are 4 scattered in all directions. Team Guide plus Katetsu, you take care of them." Tsunade gave the order and the 4 disappeared into the trees. After a few moments the barrier dropped and the group entered. It was empty inside, save for a motionless Yugito on the floor. "We're too late," Ino whispered in horror. Tsunade was already at the Raikage's side and running through diagnostic scans. Tears were running down her face as she confirmed what she knew was the truth. "God, no. There's no sign of Hokage-sama," Neji informed the group. "He's probably been moved to another location. Sai should still have the tracking device on him so we can go after him," Shikamaru spoke up. "Tsunade-sama, your orders?" Neji asked her. Team Guy head back to assist Tayuya and Sai. "Shikamaru, I am about to do something very dangerous and the consequences might be extreme, but you are now in charge of Konoha until Tayuya takes command, understood?" Tsunade told him. Shikamaru nodded in affirmation. "Yes, Tsunade-sama, but what are you planning to?" "I plan on saving my apprentice," Tsunade said clearly as she formed several hand seals. "What is that?" Ino asked, confused as the chakra covering Tsunade's hands turned blue. "Kisho Tensai. Unknown. Limbo. You need to go back, Yugi-chan," her mother whispered softly. "They need you," she said with a smile. "We're proud of you and won't question your chosen path in life," her father continued with his own smile. They slowly started to drift away from her. "Mom, Dad, Grandfather, Kurabi-sensei," Yugito shouted as she ran after their retreating forms. The light consumed her. Waterfall Country. Akatsuki hideout. Tsunade fell back and was caught by Ino and Hinata. No one was sure what happened, but they knew Tsunade accomplished whatever she was doing when Yugito's eyes snapped open and she gasped for breath and held back a scream of pain. "Raikage-sama, you're alright?" Shikamaru asked her. "I'm fine," she rasped out. "What happened?" she asked as she struggled to sit up. "The Nibi was extracted from you and you, well, died," Shikamaru said nervously. "I died? Then how am I alive now?" Yugito asked him only to see him turn towards Tsunade's motionless form. "Oh no," Yugito whispered as her eyes widened in horror. "Don't tell me she used that jutsu to bring me back." Tears fell down Yugito's face again as she put her hand against Tsunade's cold and smiling face. A moment of silence descended on the chamber to pay respects to the passing of the last of the Sannin. Waterfall Country. Undead battlefield. "Just how old are you? Are you immortal or something?" Tayuya asked in disbelief. Kakuzu merely chuckled. "Immortal? There's no such thing. I've just managed to prolong my life by stealing and stocking up on others' hearts before mine stops from old age. By removing it while that shinobi is still alive, I can store up to 5 hearts at any one time. Yours will replace the one you destroyed." "We'll see about that," Tayuya yelled back. The creature with the fire mask suddenly opened and let loose a blast of fire towards her. "Kaden. Zukaku." This time Tayuya jumped back to avoid the attack. Damn, this guy just won't let up. Above them Sai and Hidan clashed one more time before they fell back to their partners' sides. "Are you alright, Dickman?" "Of course I am. Were you worried, Blower?" Sai asked her with a smile. "I told you not to call me that," Tayuya growled back, but he just smiled. "Their teamwork is seamless. There's no openings," Sai stated as he kept his gaze on their opponents. "We need to end this quickly. I'm not like Naruto or Pain. I don't have seemingly unlimited chakra and I'm reaching my limit," Tayuya whispered back. "I can take the one with the scythe," Sai whispered to her. "We don't know his abilities," Tayuya said simply. "When we were fighting I stabbed him a few times and he didn't even feel it. I even stabbed him in the heart but he just shrugged it off as if it were nothing. It's almost like he's immortal," Sai continued. "Cover me and I'll use my genjutsu to help you take him down," Tayuya told him. "What about the other one?" Sai asked. "Leave him to me for now," Tayuya said clearly. "Understood," Sai finished and shot forward again. "Good luck," Tayuya whispered and saw 2 of the masks open at Kakuzu's side. "Bansho Tenon," she called out and pulled one of the webbed creatures towards her. "No," Kakuzu shouted in surprise as Yugito's hand was engulfed in lightning chakra. "Reikuri," Tayuya called out as she slashed the webbed creature straight down the middle, causing it to dissolve. "You'll pay for that, Futon. Atsugai. Kaden. Zukaku," Kakuzu exclaimed as a massive wave of wind-enhanced fire shot towards her. "Fujutsu Kyuin," Tayuya brought her hands up and absorbed the wave, but her eyes widened when Kakuzu came running at her while she was busy absorbing it. "Your heart is mine," Kakuzu shouted as he wrapped the strings in his arms around her and slammed her down on the ground. "Die!" he struck, tearing through her body to where her heart was located only for her to dissolve into water. A water clone? He blinked in surprise only to feel the world around him become a void of darkness. "Kokwangyo no Jutsu," Tayuya said from behind the trees to his left. "What is this?" Hidan asked in surprise. "Your death," Sai declared and appeared behind him. Hidan turned upon hearing the sound, but it was already too late. His head was cut clean off and was sent rolling across the ground. "Bastard!" Hidan's head shouted as his body fell motionless to the ground. "This genjutsu. Only used by the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages. Both were senju, but that won't work on me." Kakuzu spoke and broke the illusion so he could see again. "Kakuzu, help me out here," Hidan demanded. "He's still alive?" Tayuya blinked in shock at seeing the talking head without a body. "I'm a little busy right now," Kakuzu said to his partner and absorbed both of his remaining webbed creatures. "Sai!" Tayuya shouted and brought her hands together into a familiar hand seal. "Choju Giga!" Sai summoned a pack of ink tigers which charged at the Akatsuki agent. "This ends here. Futon. Atsugai. Kaden. Zukaku." Kakuzu opened his masks, which were now embedded in his shoulders, and released a large blast of wind-enhanced fire at the pair. The ink tigers jumped in the way and held it back for a few seconds before dissolving into normal ink again. "You lose, Chibaku Tensai," Tayuya called out as she threw the gravity ball at the oncoming wave of fire. It snuffed out the flames instantly and slammed into Kakuzu's chest before drawing in everything within range, including Hidan's head and body. Hidan screamed in anger and hatred as his body was ripped apart along with Kakuzu's, and the ground beneath them tore itself open after the gravity became too much and started ripping the earth around them apart also. After a few more seconds, Tayuya let it go and dropped to one knee as the miniature moon she constructed collapsed into a pile of rubble. "Are you alright?" Sai asked, worried as he looked over the redhead. Tayuya puked blood onto the ground and coughed slightly. "I think I overdid it there," she rasped out and fell forward only for Sai to catch her. "Hey, are you two alright?" Tenten shouted as she and the rest of her team arrived in the area. "Whoa! What the hell happened here?" she asked upon seeing the destruction around them. "You don't want to know," Tayuya grunted out. "Sai, Hokage-sama has been moved to another location. Can you track him?" Neji asked the Anbu. Sai nodded after a moment and formed a hand seal. "Grass country. Border. Akatsuki hideout. We must make this quick," Konan said as they took their positions. "With only a few of us it will be slow work," White Zetsu commented. "It doesn't matter. Nothing can stop us now," Madara chuckled darkly as he stared at Naruto's still form. "Let us begin," Pain grunted. "Fuinjutsu. Genryu Q Fujin. We're running out of time," Karui said through gritted teeth as the group of Alliance Nin dashed through the trees. "I can see the entrance up ahead," Neji informed them. "Is there a seal?" Yugito asked him. "Yes, it matches the same configuration as the others," Neji confirmed. "Alright, Team Asuma will remove the seal and then we can move in," Tayuya said to everyone in the area. "We must hurry. It has already been several days since Raikage-sama was extracted," Sai spoke solemnly. "That idiot. He'd better not die," Yugito whispered, but everyone heard her. "We're almost there," Tayuya said as they jumped out into the clearing near the cave entrance. Naruto's Mindscape, Jinchuriki Seal. The massive gate holding back the Kyuubi was breaking down and the fox itself was roaring in anger and hatred. Naruto watched on as slabs of metal rained down from the ceiling of the chamber and clattered around him. "I refuse to bear that mansplaining again. I will not allow it," the Kyuubi roared as it threw itself against the seal. "That won't help you, fox," Naruto whispered sadly as he saw the seal begin to crack and break apart. "Do something then," the Kyuubi shouted in rage. "What can I do?" Naruto asked simply. "No," the Kyuubi's voice echoed through the chamber as the gate completely shattered and the Kyuubi was sucked out of the chamber. "Goodbye, Kyuubi," Naruto whispered as a lone tear trailed down his face. The world around him was consumed in light. Grass country. Border. Akatsuki hideout. "It is finished," Pain said in triumph as Naruto's body dropped to the floor motionless. "What's our next step?" Konan inquired. Everyone is to return to aim immediately. Then we will test the weapon, Pain spoke clearly. Madara looked over at him clearly amused, and when you sync with Gedo Mazo I will take control of you and use you to release the Jubi for me. What about him? Conan asked as she nodded towards the dead Hokage. Leave him. He is of no consequence, Pain said before his hologram disappeared, soon followed by everyone else. A moment later the entrance was blown open and the Alliance Nins poured through. Naruto! Yugito shouted as she ran to him, but knew it was already too late. Chapter 38. Path of the Sage. Unknown. Limbo. I must be in limbo right now. I got to say I was expecting something more, Naruto mused as he looked around the white void. The Jubi was a true monster in every sense of the word. Just one tail could destroy a continent, so I sealed it away in the moon and split its chakra using senjutsu, which gave me god-like chakra. What? Naruto turned quickly and spotted a man wearing samurai-like armor. Who are you? He asked. That's where I picked up the name Rikudo Sennin, and my necklace was something I created to help me control the Jubi's power once it was sealed in me. You're the Rikudo Sennin? Naruto asked in surprise. The prophecy draws near and you must do like I did so long ago. You can't hear me. You must be a recording or something, Naruto whispered as he listened. Repeat after me, I am the one who will establish peace and order. I am the one who will establish peace and order. You're the one who was talking to me every time I recovered a chakra crystal, Naruto deduced. Like me, there will come a time when you are no longer needed, but until then you are to maintain the moon and the Biju sealed within it. How the hell can I do that? I'm dead, Naruto thought bitterly. Only a true sage can interface completely and control the Gedo Mazo. What the hell is Gedo Mazo? Naruto asked aloud. Even then all 6 crystals of the 6 Paths necklace are needed to fully master Shiki-Fujin in its complete form. What does Shiki-Fujin, but does that have 2? Wait, complete form. I thought it just held back the Kyuubi, Naruto thought in surprise. After a moment of silence the Rikudo Sennin disappeared. All was silent until, you really know how to make an entrance, don't you, Naruto? He turned swiftly to the smiling face of Namikaze Minato. Hey Naruto, long time no see, Minato waved. Dad? Naruto's eyes widened as he looked over his father's face. You're kind of late. I suppose that's actually a good thing since it would mean you're strong, Minato said with a smile. Dad, what are you? Naruto began. You're dead and the Kyuubi has been extracted. Since the Shiki-Fujin on you has been forcefully opened, the Shinigami has to allow me to come and see you while you're still in limbo. How have you been? Minato asked. How have I been? How have I been? I'm dead, for crying out loud. Naruto shouted and Minato held his ground. Yes you are, so? Minato asked with a smile. What's with that look? Naruto asked in suspicion. You're just like your mother when you're angry, Minato commented amused. You planned this, didn't you? Naruto asked, catching on. Minato just smiled and said, there was a good chance that the man who sent Kyuubi to attack Konoha 16 years ago would try and extract it from you. Naruto huffed at that. So what? Madara is an asshole, but in case you haven't noticed, Dad, I'm still dead. I planned for that too, Minato said with a nod. Naruto cocked his head to the side, confused. How? I only sealed half of Kyuubi's chakra in you, but I sealed the other half in Shiki-Fujin, an entirely different location, Minato explained. Where? You can only seal it inside a living container, and I was the only one there when you sealed it, Naruto asked him. Minato smiled sadly. Actually, there was one other container there. It just happened to be a grown man instead of a newborn child. Naruto quickly caught on. You. Minato nodded at that. Yes, me. Kyuubi's yin chakra was sealed within my own body in a seal identical to yours. Why? Why would you do that? Naruto asked him. Why would you split Kyuubi's chakra in half? Minato sighed and explained. Because you needed a replacement after they removed the Kyuubi from you. A toad by the name of Geritora has the key which can open both seals completely and allow the core sealed in my body to be transferred to yours. I didn't make the key for your seal, I made it for me. Dad. I don't know what to say, Naruto spoke after a moment. Minato just smiled and said, then don't say anything. I may not be able to return you to the land of the living, but I know you will return in a few moments anyways. How do you know that? Naruto asked, confused. Minato smiled when he sees Naruto's eyes start to glow, because you have people who still need you, now more than ever. Thank you for everything, Dad. About the Kyuubi. I understand why you did it. I don't agree with you, but I understand. Naruto smiled back as his body was consumed by light and he disappeared a moment later. Just then the Rikudo Sennin reappeared at Minato's side and asked, "Do you think he will be alright?" "Yes, I do. I believe in him to bring peace to the world where everyone else has failed," Minato said with a smile. "The Kyuubi has been extracted. You are no longer bound to the Shinigami," the Rikudo Sennin said clearly. "What do you mean?" Minato asked him. "You can finally reunite with your wife," the Rikudo Sennin replied before he turned and vanished again. Minato smiled again and started walking towards the light. Grass country. Border. Akatsuki hideout. "Come on, idiot, wake up," Yugito said, trying to remain calm as she cradled the Hokage's head. "Naruto, come on, open your eyes," she pleaded. "This can't be happening," Tayuya muttered and clenched her fists. "Don't leave me, I love you," Yugito shouted at him, tears now freely falling down her face. Almost in response, the 6 crystals attached to his necklace started to glow and a low humming could be heard echoing throughout the chamber. Suddenly a weak shockwave washed over them all before the crystals floated into the air above his head. "What is that?" Yugito asked as she wiped the tears from her eyes. "I don't know," Tayuya shook her head, not knowing what to say. "They are the chakra crystals Hokage-sama has been collecting over the years," Sai answered, surprising the group. Danzo-sama had extensive notes pertaining to the crystals, but he was unable to ascertain their purpose. "In order to save his life I will give you resurrection, but because of the Shikifujin he may never be able to fight ever again." "Did you guys hear that?" Tayuya asked, freaking out at the voice. "Hear what?" Sai inquired. "You may be able to give him back his life, but his eyes and body will be severely weakened, just like mine was when I sealed away the Jubi and the moon." "Is it worth it?" "That," Tayuya replied in surprise. "We don't hear anything, Tayuya," Yugito told her. Suddenly the crystals started to glow again and shot towards Tayuya, surprising everyone. The crystals then started to spin around her before integrating into her, and her Rinnegan suddenly activated. 2 embedded themselves in the back of her hands, another 2 in her shoulders, and the last 2 in her knees. "Tayuya, are you alright?" Yugito asked the redhead. "I will bring peace and order," the voice that answered was not Tayuya. The redhead suddenly formed a hand seal and chakra exploded from her form. Geto. Rinnegan Tensai no Jutsu. A large statue exploded from the ground behind them, surprising the group alliance nins, and they backed away in fear. "What is that?" Kiba exclaimed in fear. "Girl," the voice spoke through Tayuya again. "Anchor his heart and his soul will return," it said to Yugito. Yugito looked at Tayuya's glowing Rinnegan before nodding. "Be warned. Resurrection is taxing on the mind and body. As I have told my descendant, he might never fight again." "I understand," Yugito gave a tearful nod before turning her gaze back on the still form of Naruto. "It is done." Tayuya collapsed to one knee as a Naruto's body started to glow blue and yellow. The statue disappeared a moment later and the crystals returned to their place on Naruto's necklace. "What the fuck was that?" Tayuya groaned as pain flashed through her body. Suddenly Naruto's eyes snapped open and he gasped as air invaded his lungs once more. He coughed a few times and Yugito pulled him into a hug, surprising him as he was trying to figure out where he was. "Why, Yugito?" Naruto blinked before he winced as pain shot through his stomach and arms. "I thought I lost you," Yugito said as she cried in relief. What happened?" He looked up and saw Sai holding a barely conscious Tayuya. "I don't know," Yugito answered truthfully as her hands glowed green and she started to heal the damage he had taken. "I heard a voice and then I felt like someone was possessing me," Tayuya answered. "I think that was the Rikudo Sennin," Naruto responded. "We should leave while we can. Akatsuki could show up at any time," Sai spoke up. "I don't think Akatsuki cares about us anymore," Tayuya said, shaking her head. "Don't ever leave me again," Yugito said to the Hokage with a tearful smile. "Yugito?" Naruto asked as he stared at her. "What?" she asked back. "Marry me. Rain Country. Aim, Akatsuki headquarters. The time has finally come. We have reached our objective and now have all of the Biju at our disposal. It is time we move into the final phase of the plan." Nagato spoke to the room from his chair. He turned and spoke in monotone. "Is that all right with you, Madara?" "Chiki Senju. Fine, I'll play your game a little longer just to see if it works properly before I release the Jubi," Madara thought as he turned towards the leader of Akatsuki. Do what you want, pain. The mocking in the man's tone was ignored. Nagato made a hand seal and called out, Kachiyose, Gedo Mazo. Suddenly a large demonic statue with 9 eyes erupted from the ground in the center of the chamber. Now can begin. Be careful, Nagato, Konan said to him as cable-like spikes erupted from the hands from the statue and struck all 6 paths of pain along with Nagato himself. It is done. I am now completely synchronized with Gedo Mazo. Nagato spoke from his chair. Who shall be the first target? Madara inquired with a smirk behind his mask. Just a little more, and then I will force him to use Rinnegan Tensei on me, he thought as his Sharingan began to spin. Konoha, Nagato answered as the statue began to glow. The roof opened up and the statue turned its head upwards to the sky. Chakra started pooling out of the 9 eyes and concentrated at the mouth of the statue where it compressed into a large ball of energy. Peace has arrived, Nagato spoke as the ball glowed and launched itself into the sky. Several seconds passed, and the ball dissolved into nothingness. It didn't work, Madara gritted his teeth in anger. Why didn't it work? He growled out. Nagato closed his eyes and concentrated. It's the Kyuubi. The yin half of its chakra is missing. The Kyuubi. Senju Naruto. That annoying little brat. He must have planned this. Madara's voice was laced with anger. What do we do? Konan asked the two. I will capture Namikaze Naruto and we take the rest of the Kyuubi's chakra, Nagato stated clearly. So close, Madara thought angrily. Chapter 39, Human Sacrifice. Fire Country. Konoha Hospital. So what's the prognosis, doc? Will I live? Naruto asked jokingly. You're lucky to be alive, Hokage-sama, Shizune answered as she finished healing his wounds. What's your point? Naruto blinked. Shizune sighed and went back to work on the wounds on his back. Without the Kyuubi your healing factor has lessened significantly. With Raikage-sama having returned to Kumo to organize their forces and Tsunade-sama. No longer with us, I can only do the best I can. Don't worry about it, Shizune-chan. You're one of the best around and a student of Senju Tsunade. Not many can boast about that. Just patch me up enough to walk on my own and I'll be fine, Naruto told her. Hokage-sama, with all due respect, you're as far from fine as you can get. Your chakra coils are all but destroyed, your internal organs are barely holding themselves together and your immune system is almost non-existent. Raikage-sama wasn't as bonded to the Nibi as you were to the Kyuubi, so unlike her you actually need rest, Shizune stated clearly. Thanks for caring, Shizune-chan, but I know my body better than anyone. So please finish, Naruto said with a smile. Shizune's hand stopped glowing a moment later. It's done, but I recommend that you don't do anything stressful for at least few days. Naruto put on his new coat and smiled again. I'll try not to, but no promises. Shizune sighed, knowing that was the best she was going to get. Just be careful. Aren't I always? Naruto waved as he left. Shizune snorted as the door closed. Now to get some ramen, Naruto whispered as he took off towards Ichiraku's. I thought I'd find you here, Ni-san, Konohamaru called as he entered the ramen stand. Hey Konohamaru. Where have you been hiding? Naruto greeted back. You've grown, he said. Kinda been on missions with my team. Konohamaru had the decency to blush. You're a genin now? Naruto asked, seeing the hite on the young Sarutobi's head. Yeah, Konohamaru nodded and showed him the hite. Who's your sensei? Naruto inquired. Ebisu sensei, Konohamaru answered sheepishly. That pervert? Naruto asked in surprise. Konohamaru nodded. He's not so bad. He's been teaching us stuff. If you say so, Naruto shrugged and went back to his ramen. After a few moments of silence, Konohamaru spoke up again. Ni-chan, I heard that you beat the last Uchiha at the summit. The news is all over the village and they even say you conquered death in order to come back to us. Naruto chuckled slightly but didn't take his eyes off of the ramen in front of him. Actually, it was Tayuya that saved my life, and yes, I did kill Sasuke. Aren't you happy you don't have to deal with something like that anymore? Konohamaru asked, confused. Despite how far Sasuke had fallen, I still considered him a friend. I may have gotten angry at him all the time for his actions, but he was still a friend, and I can't hate him for that, Naruto replied. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, Konohamaru said after a moment. I pray that you never do, Naruto said with a smile. He stood up a moment later. Thanks for the ramen, old man. Anytime, Hokage-sama, Tucci said as he took the now empty ramen bowl on the table. Ni-san. I don't know what's bothering you, but the village needs you now more than ever as its Rokudame Hokage, Konohamaru said clearly as he saw Naruto stop just outside of the stand. I know, Konohamaru. You shouldn't worry so much. I won't let anything happen to Konoha. That's a promise, Naruto swore and started away from the stand. It was going to be a long day. Fire Country. Hokage's monument, 4th Hokage's head. Naruto walked through the dark and narrow halls of the monument. He knew his destination. It was the real Hokage tomb where the previous Hokages had been put to rest. The ones in the graveyard were just gravestones, but their real graves were inside the heads of the monument itself. He continued to walk until he came across the small closed door that was covered by a genjutsu which connected to the tomb of the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto took a deep breath before wiping blood across the genjutsu, causing it not only to dispel but also deactivate the various blood seals covering the door. He opened the door a moment later, took another deep breath and entered into the chamber beyond. It was dark for a moment before light flickered on and he could fully see the room. It was mostly empty with a few scrolls littering it, but what really caught his attention was the large stone grave in the center. Naruto approached the stone and pushed the cover off to reveal the motionless form of his deceased father. He hadn't even started to decompose and Naruto's Rinnegan told him that the body was still containing a functioning chakra core which he saw was located in Avery familiar seal on the man's stomach. Naruto took a step back and just stared for a second, a minute, an hour, an eternity. He bit his thumb and formed several hand seals before slamming his hand down on the floor a moment later. Kuchiyose no Jutsu, Naruto whispered as the key toad, Jiraiya appeared in a poof of smoke. Huh? Where am I? Who summons me? Jiraiya demanded. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Well, former actually, Naruto responded. Ah, I know you. Jiraiya wanted me to go to you if you were to die against pain. I heard the Kyuubi was extracted from you, so what do you want with me? Jiraiya questioned in annoyance. I want you to give me the key, Naruto replied simply. Why? Without the Kyuubi the key is useless, Jiraiya asked confused. Not as useless as you would think, Naruto countered. Fine, Jiraiya sighed and unraveled the large scroll in front of the blonde. Place your hand on the scroll to transfer the key to you, he said simply. Naruto did as asked and the scroll glowed slightly. It is done. Jiraiya put the scroll away a moment later. What are you going to do with it? Gain the Kyuubi's yin chakra, Naruto answered simply. Yin chakra? I thought that was inside the seal, Jiraiya commented. Only the Kyuubi's yang chakra was sealed in me and my seal along with its will. The rest of it is sealed here, Naruto answered as he approached the body of his father. Naruto opened his jacket to reveal the seal on his stomach before doing the same to his father and his hand started glowing blue. He pressed into both of the seals, one after the other, and they started glowing blue and red. The two seals connected a second later and Naruto bit back the scream that threatened to explode from his mouth. Red chakra cascaded throughout the room for several long and agonizing seconds before it suddenly stopped. Naruto fell to one knee after that and coughed blood onto the stone floor. He then placed his hand on his seal once more and closed it, locking the new core within it. He stood a moment later and brought his now clenched fist up to his face. Are you okay? Jiraiya asked worriedly. Yeah, I feel great, Naruto answered, and truthfully he did. His healing factor had returned to normal and he could feel his injuries repairing themselves. Wait, what? Red chakra exploded from his body, surprising them both before Naruto's Rinnegan activated and the crystals on his necklace started glowing. Even then, all 6 crystals of the 6 Paths necklace are needed to fully master Shiki Fujin in its complete form. Is this what he was talking about? Naruto thought as he felt the sinister chakra engulf him and condense. Oh crap, he thought as the chakra took the shape of a fox with 4 tails. This feels different than last time. Why? Naruto thought as he flexed his chakra claws. Only the Kyuubi's yang chakra was sealed in me and my seal along with its will. Dad, I don't know whether to hit you or thank you. You deliberately sealed Kyuubi's will with its yang chakra inside my seal so Madara could extract it while keeping the yin chakra alone in yours so I could use it without Kyuubi's influence. That's insane, Naruto thought with a smile as he looked down at his father. Naruto? Jiraiya asked nervously. I'm fine. In fact, I've never been better. I don't have to constantly fight the Kyubis for control of its chakra anymore. Naruto answered before releasing the chakra and returning to normal. What are you going to do now? Jiraiya asked a moment later as he watched Naruto reseal his father's grave. That's simple. I'm going to call a war council and we're going to discuss what I'm going to do about Akatsuki, Naruto replied with a smirk. Like me, there will come a time when you are no longer needed, but until then you are to maintain the moon and the biju sealed within it. I won't fail, Naruto thought, determined as he exited the chamber with Jiraiya and resealed it. Fire Country. Hokage's Monument, Council Chamber. Any idea why Hokage-sama called this meeting? Inoichi asked as he sat down. Not a clue, but I'm willing to bet it has something to do with Akatsuki, Shikaku shrugged. It looks like everyone is surprised that he's called a meeting so soon after the last battle with Akatsuki, Inoichi commented. There he is, Choza spoke up as he saw the Rokudame Hokage enter the room. Hokage-sama, why have you called us here? Sume asked, looking intrigued. I'm here to inform you of my decision, Naruto replied unaffected. Decision? Shibi asked in monotone. 1 week from now I will be going alone to a Megakure no Sato and I will be confronting Pain personally, Naruto declared, and the council suddenly burst into protest. I know what you are thinking, booty-amped Hokage, and the Hokage's duty demands that I face this threat against Konoha, and that's exactly what I intend to do, he continued, and the room fell silent. Hokage-sama, you can't be serious, Inoichi spoke up in disbelief. You have already been captured once, and with the Kyuubi extracted from you, you are in no shape to wage a one-man war. You would be correct. If I didn't have the Kyuubi still sealed inside me, Naruto responded, surprising the room. You mean you still have the Kyuubi? Shikaku asked with narrowed eyes. How is that possible? My dad was a genius. That's all I'm saying on the matter, Naruto replied. Hokage-sama, you can't go alone, Inoichi spoke simply. I'm not going alone. I'm taking several combat toads including Gamabunta with me, Naruto responded. That's not what I mean, Inoichi continued frantically. Inoichi. Let him go, Shikaku said to his friend. Shikaku? Inoichi asked, confused. He's made his choice just like his father had. We have no right to interfere, Shikaku replied. Naruto nodded at his words. Akatsuki has already shown that they don't care about any of the major villages. I'm going to show them why they shouldn't mess with people's lives like they've been doing. I can't believe you're going to do this, Tayuya said again as Naruto and several of his clones looked over the scrolls littering the room. What you believe and what's happening are two very different things, Naruto responded as he picked up the forbidden scroll of sealing. No, I can kind of understand leaving me in charge while you're gone, but what I don't get is the fact that you are going after Akatsuki. Am I the only one just a little freaked out by that? The redhead asked him. I agree, Hokage-sama. To challenge Akatsuki like this, the outcome is almost certain death, Sai continued. Well, I've died once already, Naruto shrugged, clearly not caring, and attached the forbidden scroll to his back. You two keep things together until I get back, he waved before disappearing a poof of smoke. Gyaku Kachiyose no Jutsu, Tayuya sighed worriedly. He will be fine, Sai reassured her. The redhead nodded with a small smile. I can only imagine what the Kumo bitch's reaction is going to be like when she hears of what he's doing. Summon Realm. Myobokuzen. Welcome back, Fukasaku said with a smile as Naruto found himself in the living room. Naruto looked down at the noodles on the table in front of him and sweat dropped. I am not eating that. You'll eat it and you'll like it, Shima called from the kitchen. Yes ma'am, Naruto sighed in defeat. I see you have the scroll, Fukasaku commented upon seeing the large scroll on his back. It took a while to find, but yeah, I got it. Naruto nodded as he dropped the scroll down to his side. After lunch we'll get started. We also need to work on your sage mode. Without Kyuubi influencing you, I maybe be able to completely bond with you, Fukasaku said with a grin. Naruto just nodded and, reluctantly, started eating his noodles. Chapter 40. Battle in the Rain. Summon Realm. Myobokuzen. Are you sure about this course of action, Naruto boy? Fukasaku asked the blonde Hokage. I'm fully prepared to fight, Naruto answered as he put on his coat. The Toad Elder sighed and nodded. I understand. Ma is already in the area and should be ready for what we have planned. I never thanked you, Naruto said, surprising Fukasaku. For what? The Toad Elder inquired. For staying with Arrow Sennin up until the end, Naruto replied with a smile. Naruto, tell me the truth. You're planning on living through this, aren't you? Fukasaku asked seriously. As the Rokudame Hokage of Konoha, I will do what I must to protect those closest to me, Naruto declared. Fukasaku sighed and chuckled. That you got from your father. Suddenly they both felt a pulling sensation and knew what it meant. It seems Ma is in position. Prepare yourself. No sooner had the words left his mouth than the two disappeared in puffs of smoke. Rain Country. AIM, Akatsuki headquarters. Are you sure? Pain questioned, now having his full attention on Zetsu. Positive, he is on his way here as we speak, White Zetsu reported. I'm surprised he was able to survive the extraction. Konan took a breath. But to be ready to fight again after going through that only a week ago? Something is not right here, and that boy is at the center of it. I agree, Pain nodded and turned towards his benefactor. This is an unexpected move on his part. He knows that we will want to recapture him, he added. That boy? If the fool wants to die, then so be it. Capture him at any cost, Madara said as he tried to contain his anger. Senju Naruto had defied him on a number of occasions, with the next always worse than the last. First the brat had killed Itachi, so he was unable to completely control Sasuke, and then he killed Danzo, making it virtually impossible for Madara to control Sasuke at all. Even after being captured and extracted, he was proving to be a pain. Madara knew that there was a chance that Naruto's little bitch of a sister might be able to revive him, but Madara had planned on it so he could see the look on the boy's face when he finally became the Jubi Jinchuriki. Instead, not only did Naruto retain some if not all of Kyuubi's power, but he was launching a direct attack on the Akatsuki headquarters. The audacity of it. The boy was insulting him by merely living, but to charge at him without a care, as if the boy could actually beat a god like himself. Not only that, but there was a very real possibility that the Naruto might be able to defeat Pain even with Konan aiding him. He was also a wielder of the Rinnegan, and Naruto could match Pain blow for blow when it came to that he could win. If there was one thing he had learned about the boy, it was that it was a mistake to underestimate him. If Naruto were to defeat Pain and Konan, then Madara would have to go into hiding again, maybe for 1,000 years. That was unacceptable. He needed to deal with Naruto himself should it come that. But that was a problem in itself. There was one crucial detail which no one seemed to realize except for Orochimaru when they had met. Uchiha Madara was already dead. He died in combat against the Shodai Hokage back at the Valley of the End, but his spirit wasn't claimed by the Shinigami. He had spent the next few decades trying to solidify his ghost-like form and eventually succeeded, but he knew without an actual body it would be impossible for him to fight at full strength ever again. Orochimaru was the only one to realize that, or at least that was what Madara thought when he heard the Snake Sanin researching the Nidaime Hokage's jutsu to temporarily bring back the dead and control them. Madara knew that if someone were able to use that jutsu to reconstruct his body, then the user would be able to control him instead of the other way around. His fears had been realized when Orochimaru used the jutsu to temporarily resurrect the Shodai and Nidaime Hokages to do battle with the Sandaime Hokage 4 years ago. Thankfully, Orochimaru was killed before he could complete that jutsu and reconstruct Madara's form. It was times like these that Madara really hated the most, when his plans were set back for a time. As long as he was still wounded from his battle with the Shodai Hokage, then he knew he would be no match for Naruto or Pain in a fight. He would be able to avoid almost any blow, but he wouldn't be able to really do any damage either, and if Naruto were to unleash the Kyuubi, he doubted even his invulnerability would be enough to withstand its attacks. Madara turned towards the large demonic statue in the center of the room, and his Sharingan spun wildly. A plan started to formulate inside Madara's mind, and he quickly deduced the outcome of each and every scenario as they came until only the most benefiting outcome remained. It was not something he wanted but knew it was necessary in order to accomplish his goal. Suddenly Pain snapped his head to the side, catching everyone's attention, and Madara knew that the time had come. "What is it, Nagato?" Konan asked the Rinnegan user. "He's here," was Pain's answer. "Taju Kachiyose no Jutsu," 3 voices called out as one. 3 explosions of smoke caught the attention of everyone in range, and soon 3 large battle toads appeared to cause the destruction that was sure to follow. Rain pelted the ground as the toads struck and started leveling the village building by building, slaughtering any aimed nins that came at them. The boss toad Gamabunta swung his large blade and cut through the supports of one of the towering buildings and watched with pride as it fell, killing almost everyone inside it. While this was happening, a single figure rushed through the shadows, making sure to use the distraction his summons were creating as a means to get to his true enemies. Movement on the right caught his attention and he stopped, flinging a 3-pronged kunai as he slowed. "Namikaze Naruto," spoke a tall blue-haired woman who appeared to be made out of paper. "You must be Conan. Fukasaku-sensei mentioned you. How did a student of Arrow Sennin end up like you?" Naruto asked with a smirk. "Jiraiya-sensei was a great man. A fool but a great man nevertheless," Conan admitted. "Yeah, well, I guess that makes me a fool too," Naruto shrugged. "Pain is on his way. Come quietly and we will finally be able to bring peace to this world," Conan said clearly. "You'll have to catch me first," Naruto shot back and closed his eyes. He smirked and opened them in order to reveal his hybrid mode fully activate. "Thanks for the warning about pain. It was a great help. Hiraishin no Jutsu." He disappeared in a flash of yellow light a second later. "What?" Conan thought in alarm. Naruto reappeared in a yellow flash of light near the center of the village in front of the Toad Elders. "Great timing," Naruto said with a smirk as Shima picked up the 3-pronged kunai they had thrown on the ground. "We're near the center. Are you sure about this, Naruto? You know a lot of innocents will die today if you do this," Fukasaku stated. "Hopefully it won't come to that," Naruto responded as he formed a hand seal. "Climb on and let's do this," he finished. Fukasaku sighed and nodded. "Very well, Naruto boy. Let's show these hoodlums what we think of them killing Jiraiya boy." Shima spoke and formed a hand seal along with her husband. "Senpo. Ryosei no Jutsu." The two Toad called out as they integrated into Naruto's shoulders in matter of seconds. "We'll gather sage chakra for you, so don't worry about your clones," Fukasaku told the young Hokage. "I would still prefer if I had one clone on standby just in case." Naruto nodded, and after creating a clone he jumped up the side of a building. He ran straight up, jumping from building to building until a large centipede erupted from the wall he was running up. "Kachiyose no Jutsu," Animal Path exclaimed as she appeared riding the centipede. "Looks like Pain got himself a new summoning body to replace the one Jiraiya boy destroyed," Fukasaku commented. "It doesn't matter," Naruto responded as he dodged the falling debris and threw a 3-pronged kunai at Animal. The path evaded it easily but was unprepared for Naruto disappearing in a flash of light. "Hiraishin no Jutsu," the blonde Hokage called out as he appeared above her in an instant. "Rasenrengen," he exclaimed as he slammed a pair of spinning chakra spheres into her gut, blowing her downwards along with the centipede. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto whispered as a clone, minus the Toad Elders, appeared at his side and threw him upwards onto the side of the building. "You've gotten better at aerial combat, I see," Fukasaku commented. "3 more coming from below," Shima shouted as she saw Diva, Naraka and Asura dashing up the building towards them. "I see them," Naruto nodded and started running up the side of the building. Asura threw off his Akatsuki cloak and ripped open his right arm to reveal dozens of missiles. They fired, swerving in order to follow their target and closed in on Naruto above. Naruto narrowly evaded the barrage as explosions riddled the side of the building, and when the dust cleared, the 3 paths were running alongside him. "Damn, doesn't this guy ever quit?" Naruto asked in frustration. "Shinra Tensei," Diva whispered and sent a blast of gravity at the blonde. "Shinra Tensei," Naruto countered with his own jutsu, and an echoing bang echoed through the air between them. "So I was right," he muttered knowingly. "Our gravity jutsu cancelled each other out," Pain mused as they approached the roof of the tower. "What is he up to?" asked the god of rain silently. Naruto quickly reached the edge of the roof and with all his strength he jumped high into the air above the industrial shinobi village. Diva's eyes widened in comprehension. "He's planning to." Shinra Tensei. Bansho Tenon. The world around them distorted as the world seemed to be blown away and pulled in at the same time. All those watching on saw a sphere of mutilated space ripping everything inside apart in a matter of seconds. Naruto and Diva hovered above the village for a few long seconds before they both dropped down to the street below where several towers now lay in ruins. That was too close, Conan muttered as she appeared at his side in a spiral of papers. Suddenly the other 5 paths appeared at their side. Are you all right, Nagato? No, Diva answered simply. He narrowed his eyes at the blonde Hokage standing a few feet in front of him. You had this planned, didn't you, Namikaze Naruto? You mean force you to use a full-powered Bansho Tenon to counter me? Yeah, I did, and now you can't use your gravity jutsus for another 5 minutes. More than enough time to deal with you, Naruto declared with a fox-like grin. Stay back, Conan, Diva spoke as Naruto shot forward. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Naruto whispered, and 2 clones appeared at his side. Suin Kachiyose no Jutsu, Animal spoke as she slapped her hand down on the stone ground. 2 large animals, a rhino and a ram, appeared in twin puffs of smoke and charged to approaching Sage. The 2 clones brought their hands up to Naruto's and started charging 2 spheres of spinning chakra. After the jutsus had formed, the 2 clones stayed at his side, keeping them stable, but as soon as they were in range the 2 clones jumped to the side. Sho Udem a Rasenrengen, Naruto exclaimed as he slammed the 2, now huge chakra spheres, into the summoned creatures at the same time. The chakra balls exploded, destroying the 2 summoned animals and blowing away a few square blocks of the village. Conan reformed herself and looked on with surprise at the devastation the young sage had brought. All 6 paths of pain stood atop the nearby collection of rubble that was once the trading center of the village. He looked to be unconcerned, but she knew him long enough to see that he was in fact troubled by this development. Kachiyose no Jutsu, Animal called out and sent her bird-like summon at him. Naruto saw it coming and took the attack straight on before disappearing in a poof of smoke, signifying he was a clone. Rasengan, Naruto exclaimed as he appeared behind her and slammed a spinning sphere of chakra into her back. She fell lifeless a moment later and he caught her body before placing her on the ground as the others turned towards him. You know, if there is one thing I can't stand, it's others desecrating people's bodies, he spoke clearly as he looked down at the girl's face. You cannot understand my actions, Diva responded simply. Where is the real you? Naruto asked, surprising the 5 Akatsuki members. You clearly aren't among these 6, so where are you? He asked again. You really are something else, Namikaze Naruto, Diva said with a small, almost mocking chuckle. You didn't answer my question, Naruto commented. Not that it matters. As soon as I'm done with these abominations you've created, I'm going to be coming after the real you and we'll settle this then. As the Uzumaki no Rinnegan, the declaration made Conan tense. Nagato. Conan, come to me. This is a battle between gods, not men and women, Diva said clearly. Conan nodded and disappeared in a swirl of paper. I'm on my way, Shikigami no Mai. Naruto boy, are you ready? Fukasaku asked from the Hokage's shoulder. Ready. Naruto nodded in confirmation and formed a hand seal. Then let's do this, Shima finished. Senpo. Gomon. The 3 called out together as the oil, wind and fire amplified each other into a wave of pure destruction. Fujutsu Kyuin, Prada whispered as he quickly absorbed the stream of liquid fire sent at them. Watch it, Naruto boy, that pain can absorb jutsu like you, Shima informed him. I thought so, Naruto grinned in response as the 2 clones he had made earlier appeared behind the 5 remaining paths. Bunshin Deibakuha. The 2 clones exploded right on top of the 5 paths. Fujutsu Kyuin, Prada countered and the explosions were absorbed within moments. Suddenly the real Naruto appeared in front of him and slugged him across the face, shattering it instantly. Kawazu Kumite, he exclaimed as the Prada path fell to the ground, dead. Doden. Doryuheki, Diva charged forward as he created a ball behind the blonde, effectively trapping him. Damn it, he trapped me, Naruto thought before he felt Diva shove a chakra blade of some kind through his shoulder, pinning him to the wall behind him and forcing the Toad elders to break off from the blonde. Naruto boy, Shima called in worry as she and her husband landed a few feet away. You know what pain, Naruto grunted out as he looked up into his opponent's eyes. I thought that when I finally fought you I would feel anger and hatred. But I don't feel like that at all. I feel complete for the first time in my life. The 2 simply stared in each other's Rinnegan. Right here and right now. I will stop you. and I will stop Madara from plunging this world into a never-ending nightmare, he vowed. My way is the only way to achieve true peace. Madara is a fool for thinking I would play along with his games. I am going to use the Biju and I will create a weapon which will instill fear and pain to future generations so they will be afraid to fight and kill one another, Pain stated clearly. Your peace is the same as Madara's, it's nothing but an illusion, Naruto grunted out and smirked at him. Then what would you do instead? Pain inquired in monotone. I'd endure. I'd survive and I'd bring everyone together and make them understand each other. It's already started at the Cage Summit, Naruto answered with a pained chuckle. Just because they can understand each other doesn't mean they can come in agreement, Pain countered. Maybe that's true, and, so what? Naruto asked. The world can't be saved so easily. Fighting is a part of human nature. We've been fighting for as long as we can remember and will continue to fight until we're all dead. If that is the peace you seek, then fight for it, if you can, Pain practically dared him. I already have. Sage chakra spread through the chakra blade and pulsed into the air and then into the direction of the largest tower in the village. I found you, he said tauntingly. He tracked me with that blasted sage mode of his, Pain realized before red chakra exploded from Naruto's body, forcing him to back away. When the light died down, Naruto could be seen on all fours covered in a dense sinister crimson chakra in the shape of a fox with 6 tails. A skeleton of some kind outlined his form and he roared, the god of rain. Chapter 41. War and Peace. Rain Country. Aim, battlefield. Naruto boy? Fukasaku asked hesitantly. I'm fine, Naruto reassured him to the surprise of Pain. He's mastered the Kyuubi's chakra? Pain thought with narrowed eyes and a little worry. The Kyuubified Naruto shot forward in an instant and took down Asura with one strike before he could react. The punch released a shockwave large enough to destroy a good chunk of the outer village, though thankfully everyone had already evacuated. This is going to be more difficult than the Hachibi Jinchuriki, Pain mused, and Naruto was upon him again. Shinra Tensei, he exclaimed, his powers having finally returned. Naruto planted 4 of his tails into the ground and roared, blowing the diva path back and forcing Human to catch him. He deflected Shinra Tensei with chakra alone. Blue and red orbs suddenly started to gather at Naruto's mouth and compressed into a fist-sized sphere of black energy. Rokubiko Imar, he started. Bansho Tenon, Diva interrupted quickly as a building was literally dropped on Naruto. The impact sent Naruto's jutsu astray and it exploded in a blinding light. Just outside the village, teams from Konoha, Kumo, Suna, Iwa and Kiri were just arriving when they saw the horizon light up the sky like a second sun. What the hell is that? Kankuro asked as the light died down. That must be Naruto, Tayuya answered as smoke trailed off into the sky from the source of the blast. That reckless idiot, Yugito said through gritted teeth, clearly worried. Diva stood up with his Akatsuki cloak now ruined and Human laying motionless on the ground at his side. The Kyuubified Naruto stood a few meters away and smirked like a demon. The Kyuubi's power, it's magnificent, Pain commented in thought. He formed a hand seal and whispered, Chibaku Tensei. A ball of gravity formed in his hand and he hurled it into the air above them. Crap, Naruto grunted out as he was pulled upwards along with several buildings and a good chunk of the earth itself. The miniature moon formed within moments and Naruto found himself buried inside it. I have no choice, he thought before he closed his eyes and the moon enlarged. Pain narrowed his eyes when he saw a chunk of the moon get blown off. What? Suddenly a large fox with 9 tails burst from the moon's surface and roared at him. To think he was this powerful. He brought up his hands and readied himself. He dug himself out of Chibaku Tensei with pure chakra. I should enlarge while I can. I doubt he will be as easy to contain as the Hachibi. Suddenly a black ball of chakra formed at the fox's mouth and Pain's eyes widened slightly. Oh no. Kyuubiko Amari. Naruto roared as he unleashed an enormous blast of chakra, carving out a good portion of a Megakure no Sato and wiping out everything it touched. Such outrageous strength. I can't hold it. Naruto broke free of Chibaku Tensei, but the artificial construct remained as the massive fox touched back down on the earth just outside of the village. Pain jumped up high and hurled the miniature moon at Naruto, Bansho Tenon. Chibaku Tensei slammed into the fox's side with a mighty explosion, causing Naruto to stagger and allow Pain to close the distance between them. Naruto spun as fast he could, his tails ripping open the earth as he turned and roared, creating a shockwave which leveled several buildings and blew Pain away. You can't win Pain, Naruto roared as Pain jumped to the side. He is too strong, Pain admitted as Naruto swiped a tail at him, resulting in a massive shockwave. The village is in ruins and a lot of AIM nens have died. If he turns his attention on my true body, then I will surely be killed, he continued. Just then the fox started to contract and shrink. What is he doing? Is he suppressing Kyuubi's chakra? Why? Naruto sighed as the last of the red chakra left him. That was close. I almost lost control again. Even without Kyuubi influencing me. If I use that chakra for too long, it will consume me. He turned his attention back to his opponent a second later. What are you waiting for? Let's finish this, he said as he felt his sage chakra replenish from his only sage clone which he had made before they started. He's already in sage mode. He's got stamina, I'll give him that. I had to confirm the power of the Kyuubi, but I never even imagined Chibaku Tensei wouldn't be enough, Pain thought tiredly. Suddenly Naraku and a resurrected animal appeared at his side. Kuchiyose no Jutsu, Animal whispered as she summoned the remaining 3 resurrected paths. Fuin. Kai, Naruto exclaimed as he released a volley of 3-pronged kunai from a pair of containment scrolls. The kunai sailed through the air and hit the ground around the 6 paths of Pain. No, Pain thought as his paths tried to jump away. It was too late. Hiraishin no Jutsu. Yellow light flashed across the battlefield and silence then reigned. 5 of the 6 paths fell to the ground, defeated including the Naraku path. Diva was breathing hard now and stood in the center of a crater with the kunai littering its edges. Obviously he had blown them away before Naruto attacked but was unable to save his other bodies, leaving only the Diva path still capable of fighting. Pain took a deep breath and asked, why don't you just give up? You have no real answer, no solution. Isn't it time for you to give up? Can I just say one thing? Naruto asked as he formed several hand seals. Futon. Kazuryuden no Jutsu. He exclaimed and threw out a punch, sending a large dragon of wind. Shinra Tensei. Pain called out and the dragon shattered. Just then he saw Naruto charging the jutsu in his hand. He can't throw that jutsu. I've got 5 seconds. I can do this. 5. Give up. Naruto shouted as the clone at his side threw into the air towards Pain. 4. He closed in, the wind aiding him as he approached. 3. Trying to make me give up, the blonde shouted. Pain's eyes widened as Naruto drew closer and thrust out his jutsu towards the Diva path. Rasengan. With an echoing war cry, Naruto struck, burying the spiraling sphere into the Diva path's gut. Pain was blown back and crashed hard into the upturned dirt scattered around the area. Naruto skidded to a halt a few feet away, breathing hard and bleeding from his eyes. He fell to one knee and coughed blood onto the ground before looking up at where Pain had fallen. I think I overdid it on that one, Naruto thought as he steadied his breathing. He shakily stood up a moment later. Sage mode is depleted and my body can't handle much more of Kyuubi's chakra. Thankfully my Rinnegan has recharged. He approached the deceased Diva path and pulled out one of its chakra receivers. He stabbed it in at his hand and sent a blast of sage chakra through it. Found him. Now to meet the real Pain. He threw the receiver to the side and turned towards the highest tower in the village. It was on the southern side of the city-sized village and remained standing along with almost every building in that area. He took off onto the rooftops, leaving the battlefield where he had fought the 6 paths and closed in on the main body of Pain. Nagato. Rain Country. Aim, Tower of Pain. Rasengan. The door to the main chamber exploded off its hinges and Naruto entered a moment later. Once inside he saw a pair of figures in the center. One of them sat in a sort of mechanized chair and the other was the blue-haired woman he knew as Konan. Are you the real one? Naruto asked the one in the chair. So peace has arrived, eh? Nagato inquired as his Rinnegan glowed a dull gray. You must be Nagato, Naruto whispered as his hands clenched at his side. Do you hate me, now that you see me before you? Nagato asked as he analyzed the blonde. No, Naruto answered after a moment. No? Nagato inquired with narrowed eyes. I came here to find out what I would feel if I saw the real you. Naruto whispered and looked down at the ground as his eyes darkened. What you would feel, and Nagato asked. I'm angry at you. But I don't hate you. Naruto answered and looked back up with his Rinnegan glowing pure yellow. You don't hate me. Then you are like me. You are no longer human either, Nagato commented with a sigh. What do you mean? Naruto asked sharply. If you were human you would feel pure hatred of me and try to kill me. That is the way humans are and the way it has always been. Their love breeds hatred and the world becomes a harsher place to live as hatred consumes everything it touches. No human would forgive me so easily, Nagato stated clearly. You underestimate humanity, Naruto said simply. Perhaps, but it no longer matters, Nagato said with a sigh. Namikaze Naruto. Surrender now and we can finally bring peace to this world. We can finally break this chain of hatred, he continued. I refuse to believe that is the only answer, Naruto declared simply. So be it. Stand aside Konan, Nagato ordered and took his arms out of the chair's supports. Nagato. You are a descendant of the Rikudo Sennin like me and a student of Ero Sennin. You want to bring peace to the world. I understand but, what you're doing is wrong. If you accomplish your goal and create your weapon then all you will be doing is giving humanity a power that it is not ready for, Naruto stated clearly. What do you mean? Nagato asked intrigued. Naruto continued a moment later, we might never be ready for that kind of power. Hell, I think the Rikudo Sennin made a mistake when he taught jutsu to the world. Humanity wasn't ready for that kind of power at the time, and we've been paying for that mistake ever since. I won't let you make another. If you do this then you will give humanity the means to destroy itself. Using fear of weapons isn't going to work because eventually a madman is going to come along who just wants to see the world burn. Silence fell on the chamber after his declaration. Then what do you suggest? Nagato shot back after a moment. Endure. Keep moving forward. And ease the pain of others, Naruto answered slowly. Like I said earlier, the world can't be saved so easily. Fighting is a part of human nature and can't be suppressed with fear, he continued as he remembered the mission to Wave Country 3 years ago. Inari and everyone else rose up to defend their home after being given hope despite their fear of Gato. That's where your logic is flawed, Nagato. What nonsense, Nagato shook his head at the blonde's words. Endure? Keep moving forward? Don't make me laugh, he continued. The only way to establish peace and order is to force everyone to feel true pain and fear. Why do you believe that? Naruto asked him. Because it is the truth, Nagato shot back. Maybe you're right, but my answer still stands. Perhaps someday the world will ready for that power. But right now we aren't. I will bring peace and order, Naruto declared. That's, Nagato began. What is it, Nagato? Konan asked her partner. The words of the Rikudo Sennin. I wear the 6 paths necklace. I wield the Rinnegan and I can control natural energy. You may not have been able to believe in Ero Sennin but you can believe in me to do what's right. Help me ease the pain in this world, Naruto finished. Nagato. Konan thought as she looked over her partner. Several moments of silence fell on the chamber. Very well. I will believe in you, Namikaze Naruto. Senju Naruto. Nagato nodded with a sigh and removed his arms from their resting places at his side. He formed a hand seal and declared to the room, Geto, Rinnegan Tensai no Jutsu. Wait, Nagato, if you use that jutsu with your current chakra levels then, Konan started. No. This is my end. If I am to die then I will do so by easing the pain of others, Nagato whispered harshly as his skin became whiter and his hair turned gray. Naruto. I entrust everything to you. Do not disappoint me, he rasped out. You're resurrecting everyone that died today, aren't you? Naruto asked him sadly. Love breeds conflict. Conflict creates wars. And wars bring pain and hatred to everyone. The younger generation like you and your companions shouldn't have to clean our mess. I wonder if all of this, is the will of a true god. Nagato slumped over in his chair and Konan was as he passed away with tears flowing down her cheeks. Are you going to be okay? Naruto asked her hesitantly as she wrapped Nagato's body up in papers. Yes, she answered after a moment. She turned to him a moment later. I need to bury Nagato and Yahiko. The diva path you defeated. I'm sorry, Naruto apologized. You have no reason to be. You did what you felt was right and so did he. Nagato believed in you to bring peace. I will believe in you too, Konan finished. So, what now? Naruto asked her. Head down into the tunnels below the village. There. You will find Gedo Mazo and Madara, Konan answered. Thank you. Naruto bowed in respect to his fallen opponents before dashing out of the chamber. Konan watched him go silently. As soon as I bury Nagato and Yahiko, I will aid you and kill Zetsu. Today would mark the end of the Akatsuki. One way or the other. Chapter 42. The True Successor. Rain Country. AIM, Akatsuki headquarters. He was coming. There was no denying it now, at least not with the ruins of Omegakure no Sato overhead and the silence that now overshadowed the world around him. Uchiha Madara hurried to interface with Gedo Mazo directly, knowing pain was no doubt defeated and Konan was with him when he fell. This led to one undeniable fact. Senju Naruto had single-handedly defeated Omegakure no Sato and 2 Akatsuki members. The military power of a shinobi nation had been defeated by one man. It was ludicrous. And now Madara had to accelerate his plan, knowing that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was now too strong to face in his weakened form. His only hope now was to attempt to unleash Gedo Mazo on that Senju brat and rip the rest of Kyuubi's chakra from his corpse. Suddenly he heard footsteps coming down the corridor just as the chakra spikes from Gedo Mazo had punctured his skin. He turned as he drew on the power contained within the statue and glared at the approaching Rokudame Hokage who was just entering the room now. Uchiha Madara, Naruto growled out when he saw the masked Akatsuki benefactor. You are too late, Senju. I have completely interfaced with Gedo Mazo. Even without the Kyuubi's yang chakra there are still 9 taels worth of power inside Gedo Mazo. Within moments I will release the Jubi and become its Jinchuriki, Madara sneered as chakra started to swirl around his body. I won't let that happen, Naruto stated clearly. And how do you plan to stop me? I have already merged the Biju back into the Jubi within Gedo Mazo. The only thing missing is you. The moment the words left Madara's mouth, the mouth of the statue opened and a spirit-like dragon shot out towards Naruto. Crap! Naruto thought as he narrowly dodged to the side. Shinra Tensei. He called out, but it had no effect on the dragon. That's definitely not a physical jutsu. It's not even like an Oni jutsu. It's something else. Dai Senju. Madara shouted in fury as the dragon swooned around and then struck Naruto in the chest. Damn it! Naruto gasped in surprise as he felt his chakra and soul being ripped from his body. I win. Fuin, Madara exclaimed as the Kyuubi's yang chakra was consumed by Gedo Mazo. Gedo. Rinnegan Tensei no Jutsu, Naruto's spirit whispered as he formed a hand seal. Suddenly and violently his spirit was pulled back into his body and he stood up. Now you're pissing me off. So you've mastered the powers of life and death, huh? It doesn't matter now. Hake no Fuin Shiki, Madara exclaimed as the chakra in the statue engulfed his body and began to expand. I won't let you do this. Naruto shouted out and formed a hand seal. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, 2 clones popped into existence at his side and started channeling chakra to his hand. Futon. Rasengan, Naruto called out as he plunged the spinning chakra ball into center eye of the statue. In that moment the mouth of Gedo Mazo opened. You fool, what have you done? Madara demanded as the chakra spike retracted. Stopped you from becoming the Jubi Jinchuriki, Naruto shot back. Suddenly chakra started cascading from the statue. Now what? That's, Madara whispered with narrowed eyes as a figure shot out of the statue's mouth, with 10 tails. Pitiful little things such as you have no right to wield my power, the Jubi said with a sinister sneer. It shot forward and plunged all 10 of its tails into Madara's chest. You should have known your place. Child of my enemy. No. I am. You master. I will become a god. No, Madara rasped out as his body slowly burned away. Only a true sage can interface completely and control the Gedo Mazo. Naruto looked over at the statue and formed a hand seal. Chakra spikes shot out of it and dug into his body, forcing him to grunt in pain. He then gathered as much sage chakra as he could and poured it all directly into his Rinnegan. The Jubi saw this and turned quickly to deal with him. Hold still, mortal, the beast roared as it shot forward. Naruto lifted up his shirt to expose the seal on his stomach and brought down his hand on top of it. Kai, the seal distorted and he formed a hand seal. No, the Jubi shouted in anger as it realized what the blonde was doing. Ura Shisho Fuinjutsu. Naruto exclaimed. 4 symbols shot into the air around him and formed a dome around the two. Fuin, he finished as the jubi was sucked in, and he brought his hand back down on the seal, closing it with the key seal on his hand. Silence. Gedo Mazo. Naruto whispered as the chakra was pulled out of his body slowly by the statue until it was all gone. He formed a familiar hand seal and 2 clones appeared at his side, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. He held out his hand and said to them, "Come on guys. We need to destroy all trace of Gedo Mazo right now, so we'll use that jutsu." It was the one jutsu which his father was never able to finish, the true futon. Rinnegan, capable of destroying an entire city in an instant. He had never been able to complete it because of the chakra requirements, and neither could Naruto, but that changed when Naruto gained full access to Kyuubi's chakra via the key. Futon. Rasen Kamikaze. It was over. And so Naruto had become the Nidaime Rikudo Senin. Rain Country. Aim, battlefield. Yugito stopped suddenly and snapped her gaze up towards the nearby river. Her eyes widened at the levels of chakra she was sensing and quickly turned towards the rest of Alliance Nins. "Everyone get down," she shouted frantically just before the river was engulfed in a massive spinning ball of wind and power. "What the fuck is that?" Tayuya shouted in surprise as it shredded everything it touched and tried to draw them in. "I think that's Naruto," Yugito shouted back over the raging winds. A moment later the ball exploded in a massive blast of wind, knocking them all down and turning the river into a nice and large future lake. After a moment of silence everyone managed to stand once more, albeit with effort. "I have detected Hokage-sama exiting the crater," Kitty, Sai reported. "That moron," Yugito said with annoyance to cover her rising fear. Naruto's first glimpse of sunlight came when he exited the cloud of smoke and stepped out onto the scorched battlefield where he had fought the Rikudo pain. He managed to take another 3 steps forward before collapsing from exhaustion only to be caught by his fiancée. "Yugito?" Naruto asked as she laid him down on the ground. "You reckless idiot," the Raikage spoke through gritted out as she started healing his wounds. "What the hell were you thinking attacking the Akatsuki's stronghold all alone?" "Hey. It seemed like a good idea at the time," Naruto chuckled and winced. Yugito just smiled as he fell into unconsciousness. Fire Country. Konoha Academy. And so the Akatsuki War came to a close with the unification of the elemental countries. "Now does anyone know what happened to Shodai-sama and his wife?" asked the female academy. A hand rose up. "Yes, Hikari?" "No one knows," answered Uzumaki Hikari. "There have been rumors about where they went, but no one knows for sure where they went." "Correct," Yu nodded in confirmation. When Namikaze Yugito stepped down as Raikage they both disappeared and haven't been seen since. Another student put their hand up. "Yes, Usagi?" In the textbooks it says that the Rinnegan is the most powerful bloodline in known existence, but only 4 people have ever been recorded to have it. How? I mean, back during the Shinobi Wars no secret was ever kept for long, especially when it was powerful, so how come no one knew about the Rinnegan? Asked Yamanaka Usagi. That is a very good question, but you need to remember anyone who survives a fight with a Rinnegan user is extremely lucky. For instance, no one knew that the Akatsuki leader, Pain, wielded the Rinnegan until the beginning of the Akatsuki War, Yu stated. Why do we need to learn this? Shouldn't we be learning how to bendinge instead of finding out how many hairs were on the Godem Hokage's back? Scoffed Hyuga Ryo. Yu sent him a disapproving look and responded. Learning from mistakes in the past allows you to stop yourself from making the same mistakes. Again Ryo scoffed. Whatever. You should remember that the peace we have now is because of the actions of these people, Yu continued. If things had turned out differently, and for example Shodai-sama didn't awaken his Rinnegan, the war could have easily turned out differently and the Jubi could have been let loose on the world even to this day. Yeah, well, it's dead now, right? Hikari asked, unsure. That is a question without an answer, Yu responded. We know for a fact that the Jubi's chakra core was sealed with Shodai-sama at the conclusion of the Battle of the Rain, but by all rights the demon should have been released when Shodai-sama died, just like it would have if the Rikudo Senin had died before sealing it inside the moon. So what happened to it? Usagi asked, blinked in confusion. Perhaps it's better if we didn't know, Yu mused with a shrug. She then smiled when the bell went off. All right class, that's enough for today. Dismissed. They left a moment later and she sighed as she looked out of the window at the seventh face on the monument. What a long day. Did you have to go through this, Konohamaru-sensei? Excuse me? She turned to see a blonde-haired child, roughly 11 years old, standing in the doorway wearing a black and orange jumpsuit. Yes? Yu asked. I don't believe I know you, nor have I seen you around school, new student? Yeah. Hokage-sama just approved of my enrollment, but I'm kind of lost, the blonde replied, unsure. Konohamaru-sensei personally allowed you to enroll? Where are your parents? Yu asked, confused. They're at work, the youth replied vaguely. Alright then, what's your name? Yu asked with a shrug. Namikaze Minato, the blonde replied as his eyes glowed gray and took on the pattern of the Rinnegan. And that concludes the final part of this story. Thank you for spending your time here at Ichiraku Ramen and listening all the way to the end. Your support helps keep these stories alive and allows the shinobi world to continue through new adventures and alternate timelines. If you enjoyed Naruto Rinnegan Chronicles, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. Once again, full credit goes to Redrover 117, the original writer of this story. If you would like to read the original version, you can find the link to the story in the description below. Let me know in the comments what story you would like to hear next. Until the next time, stay safe, and I'll see you again at Ichiraku Ramen.